Yo, 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 what is good? It is your boy Mal, and welcome back to Behind the Panels, episode 4. So far, so good, and thanks for the love. Once again, coming back with another banging episode. On today's episode, we got Jeffrey Haas talking about his new Kickstarter campaign, Malik Raining Devil 1 through 3. Make sure you check that out. And we got Deece Casillas talking about his Kill Stand series, which is banger. Make sure you check that out. And we also have Nicole Langley. She's a licensed mental health counselor in New York and a licensed professional counselor in Wyoming and Colorado. Because this episode, we touch on mental health a little bit, what to look out for and things like that. You know what I'm saying? Make sure we all doing good and everything's, we know what to look out for, man. We got to stay healthy up here. And we also touch on, social media and trying to build that fan base. But like I said, check out the episode. It's gonna be a banger. And don't forget to check out the website, villainarchives.com. And we got some fly merch, what I'm saying, the shadowrack.shop. But on that note, let's get on to the episode. Thanks for joining us today. We have Jeffrey Haas with us, and we're going to talk about his Kickstarter he has out. It's called let me know if I'm saying it wrong. Malik Raining Devil 123. It's out on Kickstarter.
Yep.
All right. It's got what, about 18 days to go. Everything looks amazing on here,
Thank
and
you.
you're just about like just under halfway from filling your pledge goal, huh?
Yeah, try not to sweat it too much yet, but yeah, we're it's getting close. It's 18 days,
Oh,
so
it looks
I
great so far. So I don't see a matter of fact, I was going through your different options for your backers, and I definitely found something that I'm gonna click on
ooh, all
because
right, that's awesome. What are you thinking about?
and I am a sucker for dope variants, and I noticed you had some variants on here. Let me open that back up. Because I saw like a three, like all three, because you got issues 1, 2, and 3.
Yep.
So I seen like an all cover bundle too that I got my eye on.
Hell yeah, they look they're some nice looking covers, aren't they?
They are beautiful. But before we get onto your project, introduce yourself, tell the community a little bit about yourself, and then we'll segue back into your project.
All right. It all started on a cold night in January. No, just no. All right. So I'm a second generation comic book nerd. My father was the initial Haas comic book
Okay.
nerd, and I inherited the family nerdom for comic books sometime in the '80s. So about I'm old. So I've been reading comic books for God, maybe 36 years now, 37 years now. Jesus Christ. But been buying them for about 37 years. My day job, I'm a special educator for junior high English.
Okay.
So I do that for my day. A little more about me. I'm a podcaster. I'm host Traversing the Stars podcast on YouTube
Hmm.
and some other sites. I'm a publicist for indie comic book creators for Kickstarters. And as you know, I'm a comic book writer.
Yeah.
So I still got some side gigs, I some main gigs. I'm in and around the comic book world quite a bit.
Nice, nice, nice. That's what's up, man. And you also sent me a link, Cosby Media Productions. Is that your company?
No, that's one of my clients. My client Braxton Cosby.
Mm-hmm.
He's the owner of Cosby Media Production, which publishes graphic novels, graphic
Mm.
novels, and comic books and novels.
Okay.
So he's going to hopefully be on your show sometime in the on the future, so you can talk to him as well.
Oh
But
yeah,
he
let me know.
he's absolutely awesome. Great guy. He's actually the nephew of Bill Cosby, which is interesting. He'll have stories of its own, I'm sure, for
Okay.
you. So that should be a fun one. But yeah, no, he's a fantastic dude. He was currently writing Yasuke, which is a
Mm-hmm.
novel. First issue is a novel, and then he does a second issue, which is regular comic books, comic book form. So those are really cool. I highly recommend you check him out. He also does a whole bunch of other stuff. In his series, so definitely Braxton Cosby is someone to check out. But like I said, I'm his publicist.
Oh yeah, because I was like I said, I clicked on the site and I was like, wow, there's a lot of great stuff on here. So
Yeah.
yeah, no, I was looking at some of their top comments just on the front page. He's got so much
Mm.
workout, and a lot of it is just so eye catching. It's
Yeah.
pretty
He,
amazing.
he's awesome. Like I say, he's a good guy. He'd be a great interview. He's, let's say, he's promoting the Suke, which is
Hmm.
his newest work. So yeah, I look forward to seeing him on your show, and I'll be watching that
Oh
episode
yeah.
too.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So far where this is going to be episode 4. It's been great so far. We've gotten a lot of positive feedbacks, and I've
Very
gotten,
nice.
so many people have signed up. So hopefully, this could go somewhere, and we become a mainstay in the community. But let's get back to your Kickstarter, Malek, Raining Devil. Let's talk a little bit about that. So this is issue 1 and 3. Are you relaunching it, or
All right,
you're just putting out all 3 issues for the first time?
all right. So basically, how this is working is, so the primary Kickstarter is funding issue 3, which is
Yeah.
all pencil and ink. Pencil and ink is all done, but I need kickstarting the coloring, the
Hmm.
lettering, and the printing.
Okay.
Issues 1 and 2 are going to be reprinted
Hmm.
because I sold out of the other 2 issues, so they
That's
need to
always
be
good.
reprinted. And also, the cool thing is, I got my property back. I got it back. It was an indie publisher was publishing originally, but she is kind of out of the industry now due to other issues I'm not going to go
Yeah.
into. So the stories, the comic books are mine again, all completely mine to control. So I'm
Hmm.
reissuing them under my own
Nice.
banner of probably Vector Comics, and I'm
Okay.
just super excited to have control over my property completely again.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. That's always the main thing when when you get into the business side of things is trying to, if you're gonna go sign with a publisher or something, trying to keep as much control over your IP that you can
Yes.
before everything just gets out of hands,
Yes,
and
I made that mistake a long time ago. I had a graphic novel that you can find on Amazon called
hmm
Sanctus, which is an 88
hmm
page graphic novel. And the indie publisher who did it gave me an upfront fee of like $250, which was a pittance compared to what it cost to make.
Oh yeah.
But I signed a contract, my first contract, and I was so excited about the concept of signing a contract, I didn't read the contract.
mm
So apparently they own the title in perpetuity now. That means
mm
I'll never get the damn thing back unless I paid them. I think it was like $1,000, some shit to get my property back.
And they gave you 250.
Yeah, give me 250 on an 88 page graphic novel that cost me probably like 12 to $13,000 to make, maybe
Yeah.
$14,000 to make. So I learned mistake early, which is read your
Mhm.
contract, have someone other
Read
than
them.
you read the contract. If it
Oh
says in
yeah.
perpetuity or any weird language like that, get out.
hmm Yeah. Contracts. Read them contracts.
Yes.
Even if it's 1 page long, read it. If you have questions, Google it. Something.
Yes.
These companies they're not, they don't always have your best interest at heart. It's a business,
It's
it,
100% true. And
100% true.
if you have the means to hire a lawyer to read a contract for you for at least, I mean, for whatever cost that would make for us to read it, it may be
Yeah.
worth it. If
hmm
I made to spend, I don't know what a lawyer costs an hour because I'm too poor to afford a lawyer, but let's say it costs $250 to afford the lawyer. So my 250, let's say, is one right to the lawyer fee. Let's say,
Yeah.
that happened. I would have the language better. I would have my comic book back in my own pocket. And I guarantee I would have made that money back on my own
hmm
second book.
Absolutely.
So, buy a lawyer is probably worth it to check the contract.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Because also, you could always come back to the negotiating table like, hold on, nope,
Yep.
I'm clear on the terms, and this ain't gonna work. If you want it, we've got to make this a little better. If not, I'll keep shopping. Plain and
Right.
simple. Plain and
And
simple.
the other advice I would always give is if the publisher isn't, let's say, 3 to 5% of the market, the really small indies are like 1% of the market, the really small
hmm
ones,
hmm
you're really better off just self-publishing at that point. Kickstart
Oh
it,
yeah.
self-publish it. Any
hmm
publisher that's that small is probably not going to get you the business you think you're going to get anyway.
hmm
They don't have the reputation or the reach to really help you. Just
hmm
do your own book at that point. You know what I'm
Exactly.
saying?
You may even make more of a profit doing it yourself because you're pretty much, aside from recouping the production costs, everything else goes right
Exactly.
back to you. So the the $1,000 that they would have gotten could go right to you. So oh
Exactly.
yeah. So tell me more about Malek. Now, is this going to be like, is it going to be a couple of issues long? Are you
So
world building? What are we doing
so
with
so
that
Malik
story?
is going to be 6 issues total.
Hmm.
So the first three are going to be complete one way or another. And then I'm going to do issues 4, 5, and 6, and I'm going to complete the series. But it's 6 issues total. So I do have a wrap up.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that soon, so this is one of those stories that are gonna be like, when I'm 90 years old, I'll be like, you now need to buy issue 20, 30 of my Malik comic. No, it's three. It's gonna be 6 issues total. I'm booting three. There's three tie-in comic books, four tie-in comic books as well that intersect with the storyline. That
Okay.
three of them already been made. One left to make, but they're only 8 pages long, so they're pretty easy to manufacture those. All by the
Okay.
same artist, Juan Amaran. He's doing all the art for every single thing that has Malik on
Mm-hmm.
it, so there's a consistency of look,
Yeah.
of artwork. Even though his artwork is getting so much better with the later issues, you still can see like the continuity of
Mm-hmm.
the art
Oh,
throughout.
absolutely. Yeah.
When I'm done, I'll do a trade paperback, or maybe I'll do an absolute volume of Malik, and you
Yeah.
can feel the great art and how you progressed over time. But
Mm-hmm.
like I said, it's a really good series. It follows the character of Malik, who's a basically was tricked by or betrayed by God, tricked by God, however you want to phrase it, to go to hell and kill the devil. The
Mm.
thing with going to hell is that once an angel steps foot outside heaven, steps foot on the actual ground of hell, you're no
Mm-hmm.
longer welcome back in heaven. You're soiled forever. That's
Yeah.
actually theology right there. Also, this is my own though. If you kill the devil, you become the devil. So now he's trapped in hell for eternity. And Malik
Mm.
is asking himself, "What did I do to deserve this? Is following the demand of my God or my creator worth being damned for eternity?" And he's going to
Yeah.
decide, no, not only should I not be damned, I should not be punished, but I am pissed about this and I'm going to get my revenge. And he's going to work his way to go into heaven and kick some ass in heaven, some angel ass.
Oh yeah, no, this is why I want to get all three so I could kind of catch up because this sounds like something that's right up my alley. I like stories like that,
Yeah,
especially, supernatural. Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
it is. I've been kind of selling it as the elevator pitch is John Wick meets Spawn meets Dante's Inferno.
Oh wow. That's a that's a combination in its own.
Yes.
Oh yeah, that definitely sounds like a crazy concept and I can't wait to dig into that. So, when you're creating this, like when you sat down and you started to play with the idea in my head, did you see, just the run we just discussed, or maybe even becoming something bigger, tie-ins later on, some other projects that may kind of like link in down the future, anything like that?
I mean, there's always ideas. I mean, I think every writer plays with the idea of what if,
Yeah.
like, what if this becomes so big it keeps rolling.
Yeah.
I will say issue six naturally does close the storyline, though there's some
Hmm.
intertwining ideas that can come through it. But for now, once you see how issue six ends things,
Hmm.
it really does kind of put a capper on the story. So
Hmm.
unless one of the other ideas really kind of hit me, which I mean, there's some dancing around, but there's none that I think are like, oh my god, I definitely got to continue it after six. Um, the sixth issue really, like I said, it's a hell of an ending. It
Hmm.
really puts a capper on the character, on the universe. I think you'll see things that you don't ever really see in a comic book and how it ends. It's at best bittersweet.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely. So my next question for you, like, when you're creating, because I like to dig into the mind of creators.
Hmm.
Like to me, that's one of the most fascinating thing about creating a project, regardless of the medium that it's in. I just love the creative process. Like when you're creating your stories, do you outline the full story, or like you kind of just take it from where you're starting to come up with your idea and just leave room for something else later on?
Well, I always want to know my start. I want to know my finish.
Hmm.
For Malik was very specific because there is a format to it, which is 2 issues in hell,
Hmm.
one in purgatory, two in heaven, and then the epilogue.
Yeah.
And then when I get to each issue, I plot it out page by page, panel by panel, and just kind of like in a rough outline, page one, panel two, panel three, panel four, or whatever. And then I go back when it's all done and add the dialogue and the captions and all that. Usually I do
Hmm.
outline, dialogue, caption, and then it's all set. So I do have like an outline where I kind of slowly hone in deeper and deeper, focus more and more and more onto the actual story, going
Hmm.
from like I said, the brief outline to the details of the caption, which I always put in last. So I kind of feel like captions are like the dot connectors where anything that
Yeah.
need a little more insight into the character, what's happening there, or into the event. The captions are good to pop in, but I try to
Mhm.
let the story and the dialogue really move it forward.
Yeah, no, that's out. That yeah, I'm kind of the same way. Like I'll just have this concept and I'll just start building from there, and then put it down on paper, and then I tinker with it before I start moving onto the production phase.
Mm.
Like have you ever had to like completely scrape a story because you're just like, you know what? It started off like a good idea, but it kind of went left field, and let me kind of
I have
bring
some
it back.
I have some false starts in my world. There was I'm trying to think of, there's a few ideas that I have in concept where I wrote this nice outline and then I started thinking about it. The more I thought about it, the more it started spiraling. I was
Mm-hmm.
like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
it's not ready to tell. I mean, okay, so here's a good one. There's a comic book I always wanted to write called Metallics.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I created the character in maybe ninth grade, maybe eighth grade, but it's a long time done.
Yeah.
And I wrote this outline for the character. In fact, I wrote the first issue. It was a four-issue miniseries. I wrote the first issue. This is going back when I was in high school.
Mm-hmm.
And going years later, I decided to go back and look at it.
Yeah.
And I started going through the comic book a little bit. And this in the story, because I was thinking, you know what, maybe I can maybe make this thing work. And the more
Mm-hmm.
I looked, I was thinking the holes started popping up that were too big to ignore. And I was like, crap. So I had to put it aside and go, you know what, until I figure out how to tie these holes together. Because when you're in high school, everything kind of makes sense. You kind of
Yeah.
because you don't know what you're doing, so it all seems like you know what you're doing. But when you look at it from the point of view of a 45-year-old man who's been in the industry for a while, who's been reading comic books for 30 years, who studies classic literature in school,
Mm-hmm.
you can see where the holes don't work anymore.
Yeah.
And so now it's kind of on the side burner as I kind of try to figure out how to knit it back together again and make it make
Mm-hmm.
more sense as an adult.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean those happen.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Especially like, I feel like, like you just said, you do this professionally with school and everything like that. And you can that, kind of gives like the one up compared to like me. I don't English school wasn't my big thing. You
Yeah,
know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. I school wasn't really my thing, so I just know I just know how to do, so I do. You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
But you kind of have more of an outline, like this is what it's supposed to be like, and then I think that's a cool thing to have in your toolkit. Definitely. You have
Well,
that that outline.
yeah. I mean, it's basically just a type of training because um,
Hmm.
having my degrees in English now, they teach you how to look at a piece of writing
Hmm.
differently.
Yeah.
So I tried to, I mean, as vain as it may sound, I try to look at Shakespeare and
Hmm.
look at my comic book the same way, like how I approach the comic book. Like
Yeah.
if I would approach, let's say, a Shakespearean play, what my character doing? How does it make sense? Is everything woven together in a way that is necessary and is showing the complexity of my character and the world I'm building? Does it all fit? And you
Hmm.
kind of have to analyze it the same way. And when you do start noticing the holes, right?
Yeah.
Because there's always going
Hmm.
to be a hole. No matter how good of a story you have, there's always going to be a hole that you got to sit back and go, okay, why doesn't this make perfect sense? So let's go
Yeah.
back and weave it back together again.
Okay. All right. Now, is this your first Kickstarter launching it on your own, or have you done other Kickstarters before?
No, I've watched a few. I've done. This is the second Malik Kickstarter that I've done. The
Hmm.
first issue two was kickstarted. I've done two End of All Terminus comic books, which is a sci-fi story. So they've been done as well, and they've been
Okay.
successful.
Nice.
So issue three of End of All Terminus is probably looking at maybe a May launch. Probably is my guess now. Probably May. Nightmare Patrol will be kickstarted, which is my first completed miniseries, which was
Hmm.
written with my father, and we're going to be completing that story. It's coming up soon as well. So there's a lot of balls in the air
Hmm.
that I have right now, and I'm just trying to keep everything one at a time, and tell my audience, have faith. Malik 3 might be what I'm pushing right now, but
Yeah.
Terminus 3 isn't like not coming because it's already in the works.
Yeah.
Nightmare Patrol, if you those people have been waiting for many years for the issue 5, it's coming. Be patient. It's coming this year, and we're gonna knock out all the entire series probably within a year or two. So there's a lot on my plate, and there's a lot of hopefully my readers' plate. Just have faith. Find me when it's time, and you're gonna hook you with some good books, hopefully.
No, absolutely, absolutely, yeah. And starting to self-publish and go the independent route. Because like you said, you signed to a publisher that didn't work out. Building your audience, your own organically, whether it's, Facebook, TikTok, whatever platform you use. And, how has it been difficult trying to get that fan base set where every Kickstarter you've launched, you've been able to, you know, to successfully reach your goal.
I will say it's gotten harder with as time has gone on.
Mm-hmm.
When I originally was promoting my clients and myself early on, this is going back maybe 5 years,
Mm-hmm.
social media felt a little more welcoming. Not
Yeah.
welcoming as far as there weren't jerks online who are saying nasty shit, but welcoming as far as algorithmically,
Yeah.
more welcoming. The platforms a little more welcoming to this kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Over time, that's been more fragmented. Social media is more fragmented.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, I would say with the fall of Twitter, that made a big change in promoting as well. Because Twitter was a good avenue for maybe 20 to 30% of my audience would come from Twitter. Now that's gone because X is not as successful, and half most of us moved on to Blue Sky, and Blue Sky
Yeah.
is new, but it's not welcoming really to a lot of discourse. So that one's
Okay.
a little rough. Facebook, the algorithm on Facebook is killing posting for indies comics. Anything with a link, they're definitely pushing hard on to stifle the
Yeah.
ability of it. They're also limiting the amount of times you can post, which kind of sucks when you're
Mm-hmm.
posting to across social media for your indie book, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Social media landscape is concerning and difficult now to navigate, and it's definitely more. You got to be more focused on certain areas versus trying to do it like a wide scope of
Yeah.
all. So it's tough. It's definitely a tough medium to try to build your following on now.
Oh, yeah, because I've noticed, I've mentioned this before, like I kind of stepped away from Facebook for a
Yeah,
couple of years, focused on mental health, finishing my education to get my degrees. And I noticed when I came back, it was different,
yeah,
being able to promote my work I feel like it was easier pre-COVID than it is now.
yeah.
Like I feel like I got a lot more attention back in 2017, 2018, 2019, a lot more engagement
Yep.
than I do now. I mean, I'm getting some, engagement, especially now with the podcast and just trying to, you know, get back into the community. I feel like it's just a lot of, like you said, the algorithm and all that stuff is just, it's so different. It's
It's
just a
pretty
whole
rough.
different thing.
The other thing that I mean, the easy way, and a lot of people are doing this, and I kind of resent it, but it is what it is doing like the hate posting that gets all the
Hmm.
people all built up, like angry about whatever it is you're angry about. Obviously something controversial, and you get
Hmm.
people posting on your thing, and that I mean it's nice to get those interactions, because you build up your apparent, your visibility that way. But I
Yeah.
kind of resent it to some level too. Is like, do we is that really all we can do is try to say something controversial and try to get people to respond to us now? I mean, that
Hmm.
seems cheap, in my
Yeah, I
opinion.
think most people want to just argue online
Yeah,
and just give their opinions on something when it's just like it doesn't have to always be
right.
negativity. That's why I got off Facebook. I felt like Facebook for a while was so it was just a lot,
Yeah,
too much, and I don't know. I just for the sake of me completely losing my shit, I had to get off Facebook,
yeah,
and mental health, man, it's a real thing, man. If you're not taking care of yourself and especially trying to, you know, take on something like, creating projects and trying to make something for yourself outside of outside of life, outside of your 9 to 5 could be very, it could be a lot. It could be a lot on on your mind, and it could just burn you the hell out completely,
yeah. I
you
mean,
know?
like I said, I mean that is like when it's rough. I mean, my job on this my every side gig I had is reliant on social media, so I'm on there a lot. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I mean it's hard to distance yourself and be part of it at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, like I said, it's you got to learn the trick right now is learning how to properly navigate the landscape.
Yeah.
Not just physically, I mean, as far as posting, but also as you said, mentally, and trying to wade through the sewer without stinking. from it.
Yeah,
You know what I'm
absolutely. Absolutely. Agreed.
saying?
Now I kind of want to segue into the mental health thing with creators and, balancing life because, we all got jobs, we all
Yeah,
got everything else. We got real life to handle before we can get into, creating our comics or movies or music, whatever it is.
yeah.
Like, as a creator, have you ever experienced like creative burnout where you're just like, I can't, nothing's coming out right. I'm just done with this for right now.
Um, sort of.
Mm-hmm.
I am inherently someone who has severe anxiety on
Mm-hmm.
things and other things as well. So I could argue I regularly ride the roller coaster of
Mm-hmm.
ups and downs. However, as taken a cue from my favorite combo character, Green Lantern, and the idea of willpower, I'm very good at willing my way through things.
Yeah.
So usually how it works, my life, I get down on something hard, either the podcast or my writing or
Mm-hmm.
my publicist work or whatever. I get down on something really hard. I go into the bedroom, talk to my wife. She gives
Mm-hmm.
me like a 5 minute pet talk. I go back to the computer, get back to work, and push it
Mm-hmm.
again. So I mean, so it's kind of like it's okay to hit those walls sometimes, and we all
Yeah, I feel
do.
like you need to sometimes,
Right,
you
and
know?
it's okay. And I say, like I said, I'll fill down the Kickstarter I have. I'll fill up and down from time to time. But
Mm-hmm.
usually, at least for me, I have my wife. I go to my wife, and I'll kind of like whine to her about whatever is bothering me. Like, no one's watching my podcast anymore. I have not had a new subscriber in like 3 days. My wife will be like, all right, get better. You know how this goes. Blah
Yeah.
blah
Mm-hmm.
blah blah blah. And then I walk back to the computer, and then immediately, like the thing is, and this is the key, I think, the moment you get that little spark back, go right back to doing what it was that was freaking you out, whatever was
Mm-hmm.
depressing you, and immediately start on it again.
Yeah.
Because that's how you get back on the horse immediately.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of used to think about it like exercises, right?
Yeah.
So back in the day, I used to do these exercises. I would, lift weights, do push-ups and sit-ups, stuff like that. And I realized when you're having a rough time of it, right? And then the next day you're like, I'm not going to do it today. I'll do it tomorrow. In fact, I'll do more tomorrow to make up for what I didn't do today. And then
Mm-hmm.
that day comes, you're like, well, not today. Tomorrow I'll do it. Tomorrow I'll do way more than I was going to do, but I'm definitely doing today. And then you
Mm-hmm.
realize days and weeks go by, then you just stop doing it.
Yeah.
And I think that's the trick of anything you're into, like comic books or podcasting or writing. Don't let it get to that point where you stop too many for any length of time. Get back on
Yeah.
the horse as soon as possible. Get back into your rhythm as soon as possible. Like I said, but if you got to sit down for a while and collect yourself, do that. But immediately get back on the horse when you recover and get back to work, because the longer you walk away from it, it becomes really hard to come back.
Oh yeah, especially in this climate where when it comes to social media, like you have to be we consume so much while we're scrolling and while we're doom
Yeah,
scrolling for hours at a time every day. If you're not being consistent, even if you take a week off, 2 weeks off, that could hurt your growth a little bit because we tend to forget quick. We're not, I feel like now we don't hold information in as long as we used to back in the day. I feel like,
yeah,
I'll forget a post that I saw earlier that I really liked, like, like 6 hours later because we forgot all about it.
yeah,
Like, I feel like if you do take some time off, because we all need a little break, even if it's a
yeah,
week. Try not to make it too long because the world will forget about you in 2 weeks.
yeah,
It's all about a fad too. Like, things are hot one day, millions of views. 2 weeks later, like it seems like that was like 5 years ago. You
Well,
know?
I will say one thing I've noticed, especially on TikTok, and this might be, I don't know if people know this or don't know this, but I've started to notice a pattern because I'm pretty good at pattern recognition.
Mm-hmm.
With TikTok, if you go away from TikTok for a certain amount of time, when you come back, it hypes you up pretty fast, and you suddenly get
Mm-hmm.
noticed you get more views than you've ever seen before,
Mm-hmm.
as if it's trying to coerce you to stay on the platform. And when
Mm-hmm.
you start posting that every day again, you start falling off again, and it
Mm-hmm.
stops paying attention to you. So I
Mm-hmm.
wonder if it's actually beneficial at TikTok to walk away for a little, like a week or so, get it. TikTok all like, oh, you're back. Let's promote you again. You're back. But let's keep you in. Let's keep that addiction
Yeah.
rolling.
Hmm.
You'll notice the views go up for a while. For usually, I notice when you go back, it goes up for like a week or two. You'll notice a spike, and then
Hmm.
it starts falling off you again, and then it
Yeah.
stops paying attention to you, and then you got to find the spike
Hmm.
again. But I wonder if that is a thing where it actually helps you to walk away from TikTok from time to time.
Maybe because they probably do that on purpose, because now, oh man, it's been about a month and now, I'm getting an extra 300 or 400 views. Yeah, let me
Yeah,
keep going. And now you're putting out all this new content, and then, like you said, a couple weeks later, it starts to dip, and I feel like the dip is what gets discouraging,
yeah.
especially when you're used to a couple hundred views a day. Now you're down to like 10, 15, 30,
You know,
you know?
it's got to be like a drug addiction where they really win. It's like,
Oh, absolutely.
here's a few for free. Here's a few, whatever
Yeah.
drug it is. Here's it for free. We got you. You got this. Feels good, doesn't it? And then
Oh
as it
yeah.
gets you reeled in, it's like, okay, dude, now you're paying for it. Then
Oh
you fall
yeah.
off.
Social media is my opinion. I think it is the most powerful drug that there is out there. Try detaching for 24 hours completely. Oh my God. That's gotta be like I did it for 10 days, kind of had to, locked up in a hospital for a little
Yeah.
bit. I didn't have access to my phone or social. I had no access to the outside world. First 72 hours, I'm ready to bang my head on the wall. Like, what's happening in the world? I don't know what's happening. Like, I need to see something. I don't know what's happening. And until, after a few days, it's just like, oh my God, it's such a relief. Like, I could finally, I was thinking clearer. Like, things just seem so much easier
Mm.
having detached from all forms of social media, man. It's addicting. It
Oh,
is addicting.
I don't disagree. Let's have a podcast. Traverse of the Stars podcast. Anyone wants to check it out. And when I put out some new content, oh
Hmm.
man, I'm checking my phone. It's on views with the views. I want to see the views, likes, views.
Yeah.
Oh, someone made a comment. Perfect. My wife will be like, "Put the damn phone away. We're watching a
Yeah.
movie." It's like I put out some new content. I gotta see what's
Oh
happening.
yeah. Yep. Yep. That is every time I make a post, I wake up in the middle of the night and I'm grabbing my phone like anybody, how many views? And I'm like, all right, let me go back to like I'll wake up out of REM sleep just to see if I got like one view.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
it's sickening. It's sickening. And that's just the way the world is now. Like that's just is
Well,
how it is.
I mean, especially us. I mean, if you're in the comic book field, podcasting field, publicist field, you are a media whore on some level. You
Yeah.
are all over because your life is. I mean, your gauge for success is online.
Yeah.
Your views, your backing, your
Hmm.
post interaction. That is your life at that point. So
Hmm.
you are basically living in your phone.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's everything. If I had lost my phone, I would freak out worse than if I lost my keys to my house. I was like, let's make it in the house and be like, break a window, go inside, lose your phone.
Hmm.
I'll be like, so, fuck, where is my
Yeah.
phone?
Oh yeah. I used to tell my kids, when we would go somewhere, Dad, don't forget your phone. I would tell them, listen, I'll forget y'all before I forget my phone. Like, I'll forget y'all behind before I leave my phone behind. Get out of here. Like, yeah, because, especially as a creator or publicist or whatever you're doing, we have to make sure whatever we're posting is working, because
Yeah,
if it's not working, then we gotta change course and do what is gonna work. So we do gotta kind of have to constantly check the status of our posting, whether it's YouTube, Facebook, and see even if it's one comment or one like or one follow, like it. It's a good and a bad, it's good
yeah.
because it's letting us know what we're doing works or not, but then it's also like because while we're there, then we start to scrolling, and then we start getting lost in the abyss of just doom scrolling.
I'm telling you, I've posted, God, probably 600, 700 videos for interviews that I do. And
Hmm.
I could almost, on every single one, tell you the view count on each one. You'd
Hmm.
be like, "What's your view count on this one?" I'd be like, "Oh, that was up to this number right now."
Yeah.
So it's like there's other things in my brain that could be using that space for more important things.
Yeah.
But for me, it's like, oh, that was up to 183 views. Oh, it got viewed
Mm-hmm.
again. Okay, so it's 184 now. Yeah, it's
Mm-hmm.
like you know, and it's
Yeah.
like I know the view duration. You just kind of know these things, and it's like, man, that's not it's not healthy. I mean, it's from a business standpoint, it's probably good, but it's not
Yeah.
healthy.
Yeah, no, no, absolutely not. It's the it's farthest from the, especially when you start to beat yourself up of when you start to beat yourself up, you know, oh, the post is only it's only been up 6, 7 hours and I didn't get not one like or view or follow or subscriber. And it's like, do you not like me? Like, what am I doing wrong? Like, I'm sorry, like me, like what else can I do? How can it make me better? It's
Right.
that's when you start to beat yourself up on the head. Like that's when you really start to sit there. And I feel like that's where discouragement comes in. And it's hard. It's a hard thing to navigate because like I said, that's when you start to like, oh, what am I doing? Am I wasting my time? Is this worth it? It because like it's just an expensive thing to put together.
Yeah.
It's not cheap. It's not free. I don't care if you could write, draw, you could do everything yourself. It's still expensive, printing and promoting, all that's
Yeah.
even just paying with time. It's time consuming on top of that. Some people put out 1 to 2 issues a year because that's the only time that
Yeah.
they have carved out where they could work on their project because like I said, life we got to deal with. We got wife, kids, work,
Right.
mortgages, bills, appointments, school. Like there's so much that, if we're lucky to get an hour a day, we take advantage of that hour. And which brings me to my next question, as a teacher, how does your job allow you the time to, give you extra time where you can sit down and write and work on your project? And like, does it
Um.
give you that balance that you need to make sure you're able to work and get things done the way you want to, or at least
No.
the way you need to?
Unfortunately, the bane of teaching is that teaching never stops.
Mm-hmm.
You teach during the day. Our phones are supposed to be open to our students all night long, just about almost till I think it's like 9 o'clock at night. So they can
Mm-hmm.
text you and be like, "Hey, I have a question about something." You're supposed to help them out, and you're supposed to, and you're grading papers at home because you don't have time during the day.
Yeah.
You're lesson planning at the end of the night because you don't. And I'm podcasting, and I'm prepping for the next
Mm-hmm.
interview, and I'm doing my publicist work, and I'm pushing my Kickstarter, and I'm making sure my comic book is, whatever. It's a lot.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot
Oh
in a
yeah.
day. I get through on being very good now at organizing myself mentally
Mm-hmm.
and viewing things in terms of small segments of time. This is 20 minutes. This will get done in 30 minutes. And then
Yeah.
budgeting that time where if I know I have an opening now, I'm going to get something done 2 days from now. So it's like that, make sure that extra time because other things. I've become very good at organizing and budgeting my time.
Mm-hmm.
So my life doesn't ever get too crazy. Sometimes it does get out of little control, and that's when I got to rely on my wife to be like, "I, do what you got to do. I get you're not going to come back, come to bed so late tonight." But
Mm-hmm.
it's a lot of budgeting, and like I said, you got to be very good at knowing how to organize yourself, and you can't stall.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have time in my day. Come home, I eat. I don't have time in my day to sit and go, yeah, I'll get started in a few minutes. No, now you're getting started because
Mm-hmm.
I don't have time to screw around anymore. That kind of thing.
Oh yeah, no, yeah, absolutely. Like yeah, like like you said, like you gotta budget your time correctly. Even if you got 20 minutes for that day set for whatever you're gonna do, get it done, try to stick to it. Because once the procrastinating starts, oh, I'll do it tomorrow. Oh, you know what? I'll do double the work the next. It becomes nothing. And next
Yeah,
now, 2 weeks gone by, you haven't written a sentence, did a post, nothing. Like you do, managing your time is very important. It's very important. Now, as far as you're going back to how you market your book. You do Kickstarter, but have you done any direct to consumer marketing, like a website or even conventions? Have you done any cons?
no, yeah, I've done conventions in my time. There's some um the convention circuit, especially where I'm from, which is Rhode
Hmm.
Island. isn't
Okay.
necessarily great. There's
Mm-hmm.
there's, there's a happy middle, which is where you got to find yourself. If a convention is too small, they tend not to be worth your time. If it's too big,
Mm-hmm.
they're not worth the money. You got to find that middle ground convention. Like around where I live, one of my favorite conventions is Plastic City Comic Con.
Okay.
That's run by Keith Gleason in Massachusetts. I can't remember where Massachusetts anymore. That's a perfect middle ground um, convention where the table's cheap enough, maybe $75. It's good for a
Okay.
day, and it's indie focused. So the only people coming to your convention are people who want to buy indie books,
Yeah.
and it's
Mm-hmm.
well advertised enough that people do come. I've
Mm-hmm.
been to conventions where I've sat for 6 hours and not seen someone come towards the table.
Mm-hmm.
I've been at the big conventions where I've seen people come to the table, but if you sell 30 books, 40 books, the table was $450. 40 books doesn't get you there. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying?
No.
Like you need,
Mm-hmm.
let's see, 40 times a $5 book, maybe an $8 book, sell 90 books in 3 days.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there it's sort of point where the big, so if you sell 90 books, you made your table, but you didn't pay for the art and everything that it took you to make the damn book.
Yeah.
So you got to find that middle ground where the table and is at a good point where it's affordable and the amount of people coming to your convention is reasonable enough to make your table back plus make your fees that you need
Oh
to
yeah,
pay for the
absolutely.
book.
Especially like, you mentioned the bigger conventions, you also have to compete with all the big attractions, like, if you're trying to get at like a Boston Fan Expo or New York City Comic Con, you got to deal with all the big major players that everyone is going to go see on top of trying to pay for that. Well, I'm pretty sure is a costly table, and you got to pay to get there. You got to eat. You got, I don't know if it's far. You got a hotel cost. Like it starts to add up. And like you said, even if if you're there for a weekend and sell like 30, 40 books, you're lucky you could even with that even cover just the table costs. So it does. Me, I've done a couple cons. I feel like I've kind of been on a weird path when I when I started this journey because I kind of started up here a little
Yeah.
bit because of the connections that I had, and I was able to sit in on already paid for tables that I didn't have to really put out, and got a huge fan base because of the people I was with. You know what I'm saying? So now coming back in and really just trying to do it over from scratch, from the ground up, I looked into some conventions, and I'm really trying to just stick to the, I'm not gonna say lower end conventions, but that middle ground where,
Right.
what, it's a maybe $100 for the day for the table, which is cool, and it's focused on indies because everyone coming there, they're not looking for the Marvels, the DCs, or the big, the pizzazz of these big conventions. They're focusing on finding some great books from some great artists or writers, and just because they love the indie scene, and that's the market that's coming there. And you may you may meet, you may recoup what you paid for the table and then some, and have a pretty good day, and be able to take that money and invest it in back into your next project, or put it back into what you're still trying to pay for.
Yeah, I know. Just noticed you're a fellow Northeasterner.
Oh
From
yeah, I'm from
Northeast, right?
Brooklyn.
I'm
I'm
telling
from
you,
Brooklyn, New York.
I'm Rhode Island. I'm from out of Rhode Island. So the big one I go to is Trifficon. I love Trifficon.
Hmm.
Connecticut, that's a fantastic one. But yeah, I would argue that you got to be careful which conventions you go to from a size standpoint. You know, and I would say like the bigger conventions too, as you said, they're not indie focused. Even the
Yeah.
indie, when I go to a convention like Fan Expo Boston or Rhode Island Comic Con, I will search out what indie person in
Yeah.
that group, someone in the indie artist alley, and just buy a book from someone to support the industry, right? The indie
Hmm.
comic world. But
Hmm.
most don't do that.
Yeah.
And you're going to find that it's harder to get that traction in the big ones. You got to find
Hmm.
that middle show. The small ones are too small. You might not even get a whiff
Yeah.
in a 7 or 8 hour day. Middle ones are
Hmm.
the ones you got to find. They're harder to find, but those are the key.
Yeah, because I feel like even like the lower end ones, I feel like you got people showing up. I mean, I could be wrong. This is my opinion, and this is from like my experience. I feel like you've got people looking to buy good books for cheaper because
Yeah,
at a smaller con and they're like, we could probably find some gems for like dirt cheap. And I feel like those are the kind of those are the kind of consumers that would go to one of the super smaller cons, trying to find good deals on popular books or trying to fill their collection with things that they missed out on when they came out and on New Comic Book Day. That's why I like you said, kind of finding that Three Bears kind of deal, the one that's
Yeah,
just right, that middle ground where it's not expensive and you've got, the people that are in attendance are there specifically for what you and everyone else there is putting out, and
yeah,
that's to me that's the problem with even the lower end ones, and because I've been to low, and at the local firehouse and didn't sell like 5 books, and it doesn't say anything bad about me. It's just the
yeah.
people that were there
Uh,
kind of weren't they weren't
yeah,
there for that,
I made the mistake of going to a show that was called a card show and comics. If it says anything and comics, don't do it. I
Yeah, because
literally
they're
sat
focusing
there.
on the main the
Yeah,
cards.
like I sat there for I think 7 hours at one convention that was cards and comics. It was mostly Pokemon cards being sold around me.
Yeah,
I
that's
think I
what's
had three
selling
people
right
at my
now.
table in 7 hours. I was like, oh my god, this was the most brutal. It was only like $50. I was like, $50, it's gotta be worth it. Totally not worth it.
Oh yeah, no, especially like it's not always about the money too. You're spending 7 hours sitting there essentially doing nothing when you could have been doing other things that you needed to get
Yeah,
done, working on your project or family time or something other than just sitting down on this, I'm pretty sure, uncomfortable metal chair, for 7 hours, and you really can't go nowhere if you're alone because what if someone comes up to your table and you're not there? Did I miss a sale? It's a shitty
I've
situation to be
I've had
in.
people try stealing comics off my table, so it's a
That's
thing.
crazy.
Yeah, I was
That's
at a
that's
convention.
horrible.
Yeah, at a convention, this one lady, she goes up to my table, right? She grabs 3 or 4 books. I'm thinking to myself, that's a nice sale. 4 bucks, I'll take the sale. And she
Yeah,
starts walking away from the table with the books in her hand. I was
like,
just like, no, no,
sorry.
no, 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 no. She's like, I
Yeah,
thought
this
they were
ain't
free.
free.
And no, she was like, I thought they
No.
were free. I was like, you did not. Are you kidding me? There's literally prices on the books.
That's horrible. That's horrible.
Yeah,
Like, come on, no, there's not a table here and I'm pretty sure there's a bunch of tables where people are just picking up and walking away. This isn't one of those things. This is like the car show where you get all these free, merch from all these vendors. This is not, you're at the
right.
wrong place. Like I don't mind giving away free things here and there. Of course, I feel like, especially if you don't buy nothing and you're looking around, I'll give you something small for free, like a sticker or something,
Yeah,
just to, you know, get that engagement, but walking away with 4 books, that's good money right there.
right,
That's insane. I just don't understand the nerve of some people. Like they know, come on, you know this is not free.
right.
Nothing in here is free. It's just ridiculous. I don't know how people how people think like that. Now, what I do want to ask you is, you know, as far like, because this is as I've mentioned in every episode, like I'm trying to help the new independent creators or those already in the field. Like, what kind of advice do you have for someone just looking for looking to build a foundation to start their journey into this roller coaster of a field that is creating?
Um, Not anything that's going to sound overtly encouraging,
It
but
doesn't
I'll
even have
say,
to sound encouraging, just
well,
the raw truth
wait,
behind
the,
behind this.
so basically what I would say is this. If you're going to try to get into the comic book industry, okay, keep your ambitions small at first.
Hmm.
I would recommend before you do anything, develop some sort of social media following. Get that rolling first. Go to conventions, start meeting some artist alley people, and just start making some friends who may be able to help you make connections. That may take a year or two just of building your
Yeah.
name. If you're gonna when you publish your first comic book, self-publish that first comic book. Use Kickstarter, self-publish. If your
Hmm.
Kickstarter fails, publish it yourself. Just have something
Yeah.
be done by yourself. Do not get sucked into an indie publisher who's not who's going to take more money from you that you're going to make on your own.
Absolutely.
And then build slowly. Keep your
Hmm.
ambition slow. Like if the first thing out of your mind is that I'm going to create a intertwining universe of ongoing series and they're going to be 40, 50, 60, 70 issues long, blah blah blah, you're probably a little too ambitious. Start with, I have a miniseries idea. It's going to be 2 to 4 issues long.
Hmm.
I'm going to either Kickstarter, and if it fails in Kickstarter, I'm going to back these 4 issues myself and
Yeah.
make sure this happens. Then you're on the right track, and then you can start building and sell that at your convention, start doing the small conventions, start getting some attention.
Hmm.
But I would say keep your ambitions reasonable until the ambition reaches the reality of of your situation, which is, let's say you've now published 7 or 8 books. You now have a real following. The Kickstarter is self-generating, like it starts getting your backers start coming back a lot, stuff like that. Yeah, then maybe you can think about your larger stories, but
Hmm.
keep your ambition reasonable.
Yeah, 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 definitely, absolutely. And you can't get discouraged because, you know, this you could get very discouraged very easily. That's one thing I would have to say because even me, I've gotten very discouraged and to the point where I just wanted to stop. But the drive, I don't do this for I don't do this for you. I do this for me. That's the kind of
Yeah,
mentality I have going in with this, especially some good advice that I've gotten from other creators on the show, which is kind of how I feel like it should have just been done like this anyway. When you're putting your book together, especially your first book, and you're gonna start the Kickstarter route, don't let the Kickstarter pay for the book. Have everything ready to go. Have the artwork already paid for. If anything, use the Kickstarter to raise the funds to print the book. But
right.
because sometimes having to wait, some people just don't want to wait a year after even if they just only back $20, they don't want to wait a year for a comic that they spent $20 a year ago. Have it ready to go. Have the internals, at least most of it done. Where all you really need is like one or two more steps, but have the majority of it ready to go. So
Yeah,
if it doesn't, because not every Kickstarter is gonna hit. It's not, but at least if it doesn't, you still it's not completely throwing your project off. You just got to pivot a little bit,
right.
and if you've gotten this far, you can get even further. You just got to stay on that horse and keep getting it in and keep striving. If this is what you really want to do,
Right.
because if you coming in here trying to get rich,
Yeah. That's a small ocean of wealthy indie people.
yeah,
You
yeah,
know?
I mean, good luck to you. We all want to see, we want to see everyone get rich and famous and get everything we desire. But the reality behind it is, it's not an easy path.
Exactly.
It's definitely not. It's a lot, especially doing it on your own. You're not Marvel. You don't have a system behind. You don't got billions of dollars backing you. You're doing everything. You're the creator. You're the publicist. You're the web designer. You're the business manager. You're the everything. Every hat you've gotta
Yeah.
wear. That's why I have so many Yankee hats. But on that note, Jeff, I want to thank you for joining
Thank
us
you.
today. Make sure you check out his new Kickstarter. I'm gonna have the links posted in the comments and you know, making everything look nice and flashy for when I upload this on YouTube. But check it out. It's about the backing is about halfway. It's almost halfway there. Everything looks great. Got some awesome variant covers. So make sure you take a look at that and check it out. And Jeff, once again, thank you for joining us today. And I wish you a great success and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Thanks for joining us today. Today we got Deece Casillas. He got his project Kill Stan. First of all, before we even what you sent me looks amazing.
All right. Yeah.
I I had to stop real quick because when you sent it, I was in the middle of editing one of the previous episodes, and I had to stop at this, at the scene where he was on the gurney in the hospital. I was like, hold up, I need to dedicate some time into this because I'm liking where this is going already, and that's why I like the third page. So definitely want to touch on that,
You
but
didn't even get into the real good stuff, man.
yeah, and like I'm what 3 pages in on the first issue, and I'm already like, hold up, this is going where I like. Let me finish what I'm doing. But before we get into your projects, man, just want to welcome you to today's episode. And on this show, it's more about the creator. We go over your projects and stuff, but I like to show people, the people behind the magic, man, how we think, how we function, how we how
Yeah.
we operate, and how we do what it is what we do. But on that, just introduce yourself real quick, and then we'll get started on Kill Stan.
Yeah, my name is Deece. I'm a full-time touring comedian. That's what I do for a living. And always loved comic books. Always wanted to do it. And finally, about a year ago, just decided I was going to, written a million things over the years, and I finally had one I wrote in 2020 that kind of for reasons I'm sure we'll get into it, talk about how it came to be. But decided that was the one I needed to bring forward, and here we are.
Oh yeah, yeah, definitely, man. Yeah, like I was saying, Kill Stan. So t tell me about that. Like let's get into that. Cause you just said you're a comedian. You're a touring comedian, and Kill Stan, that's your first project?
It's first comic book project I've written. I've written in a lot of different mediums. I've published books before. I've written for some TV film stuff,
Hmm.
some websites, as a
Uh,
columnist, some websites and stuff like that, production things. And, I do a weekly podcast that I've been doing for, God,
hmm.
14 years now, or no, 12 years now, since 2014. Do all types of things, but, I've written a million comic book scripts, always wanted to do
Yeah.
it. And this was,
Hmm.
finally the one that felt I had to do.
All right. Yeah. So how's that transition going from a comedian to now your first project you're putting out is the opposite. We going dark, like how is that, Because like I've known comedians that put out comic books. I've done one for Joselito, and we was just, we took what he was doing and just made it into a comic book, funny and funny. So you
Yeah.
went sideways with that.
Opposite
How was that? What was that thought
direction.
process like?
Well, you swim around in a comedian's mind for a while. It's a marshy bog in there.
Yeah.
There's some darkness, and I think most comedians' minds. That's how
Hmm.
we find a way to make crazy shit funny. It's
Hmm.
kind of a coping mechanism. So, but excuse me. I mean, I just always, every time I do projects, whether it's any project I'm doing, even approaching comedy in different ways, I always want
Hmm.
to try different things. I mean, I'm writing another comic book project now that I'm going to do after this one that's a huge departure from this tone. So, I'm always challenging myself to like find a different angle, a different voice, a
Hmm.
different yeah, just for my own entertainment, and also just challenge myself in the capacity of writing.
Yeah. Nice, 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 nice. So kill Stan. Like, yeah, let's get into that. Like, definitely tell us about that.
Yeah, I mean, it's a 10 issue series. The whole thing's written. We're just slowly chipping away at the art and
Hmm.
printing. Yeah, we're working on the fourth one right now. So 1 through 3 are all available on our website, inferno.earth, or Instagram, inferno.earth. Um, yeah, it was kind of born in 2020. So the premise of the book is a guy wants to end his own life, so he decides to do
Hmm.
it through vigilantism.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a neo-noir crime thriller on the surface, is the way I sell it, but really it's like a character piece about this guy and his journey of loss and trauma and kind of the crazy things we do when we feel like we have nothing left to live for.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Now, you mentioned 10 issues. After those 10 are done, are you gonna expand on that, or that's it? 10 issues.
That's
Now we
it.
going elsewhere.
That's
Okay.
it. Moving on. Moving
Okay.
on. I really so. I've got a ton of projects I want to do and I'm working on and I'm gonna publish, but they're all finite. I really want an ending to these things. I don't want these big sprawling epics that are gonna, just move on in perpetuity. I mean, when I write, I
Yeah.
usually most things I've written in my life, I have the ending before I have the beginning, you know?
Hmm.
Um, or so like I always know what the how it's gonna end, or maybe I'll come up if I come up with like a good what seems like a really good hook, like an opening page or opening kind of couple sentences or imaging, and then if I can think of how that would end, I'll start filling in the middle. That's kind of my
Hmm.
process. So I don't, everything I write, some of it's longer. The project I'm chipping away at right now is probably more like 50 issues.
Okay,
Um,
wow.
but I've got stuff that's, I got one that's like a 12 issue series I want to do. I've got one that's like a 36 issue series, and I've got them all kind of mapped out. So I
Hmm.
mean, but I really want them to be. Um, Everything's very intentional, right? Like when I
Hmm.
started writing Kill Stan, it was actually a 12 issue series. And then as I got about halfway through it and was writing it, I'm like, man, am I just trying to hit 12 issues to hit 12 issues? I'm like, I don't want any dead space. I don't want any meandering.
Yeah.
I don't want any panel to feel like it's bloated. I don't want any like anything to feel like it doesn't have to be there, right? So
Hmm.
anything that I felt, I went back through and anything I felt that didn't have to be there, I fucking just started chopping. And I'm like, how do I make it so like it just moves panel to panel to panel to panel? Um, and you'll probably feel this when you read the first one. And I want to keep this tone the whole book, but it's like relentless was the word in my head I was using as like framework for every page. I wanted it to be relentless, where it never stops coming at you and you
Hmm.
never feel like you have a moment to breathe and put the book down.
Yeah.
You because it's so easy to lose people these days in,
Hmm.
the TikTok culture. People's
Yeah.
fucking, people are fucking goldfish, it's so easy to
Yeah.
lose people. So
Mhm.
I just wanted everything to be riveting and sucking you in the whole time. So I found a way to truncate it to 10 issues, and I think it works even better now because it's just, it hits you the whole time.
Yeah, I mean, so far it's flowing perfect. And like I said, I'm 3 pages in to the first issue, and right now it's flowing like water. So I can only imagine, especially as we put multiple projects together, we always build on, always do better than what we did last time. So I can only imagine issue 2 and issue 3. Now, when is issue 4 expected? Like, are you trying, like, do you do one a year, two a year?
We
Like,
did
how
we did
frequently are you popping them out?
we did three last year.
Okay.
So I hope to do at least three this year, if not more.
Hmm.
We kind of, hopefully three or four. Number four, the Kickstarter launches on March 16th, and we'll run it for about a month. And
Okay.
then, so it'll end mid-April, and then we should be able to ship books about the beginning of May.
Okay.
Um, and then we'll just turn around and start working on number five right away. So yeah, hopefully the goal is, um, we had a little late start on number four just because some things I was doing, but
Yeah.
hopefully we can crank out three again this year.
All right. Yeah, definitely. And like, do you already have? I mean, I'm assuming at this point you already got the whole story like locked in already, ready
Oh
to
yeah.
go.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's been polished off and written for probably at least a year now.
Nice.
So
Nice. Nice.
yeah.
Nice. Yeah, that's what's up. Now, my next question, being that you're a stand-up comedian, you're immersed in entertainment on both sides with the comic books and then being a comedian. Like, how does that affect you? Like, I want to touch a little bit on mental health on this episode. I suffer from, I'm bipolar and, trying to, sometimes this could be a battle,
Yeah.
being that this you're doing, you know, you're, like I said, you're on multiple sides of just entertaining. How does, like, do you ever experience any creative burnout? And like, how is that toll? toll on you.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, absolutely, man. I don't know. I don't know if it's creative burnout, because it is burnout. I don't know if it's creative burnout, I guess I'd
Yeah,
say. Because like creating is all I want to do.
yeah,
I did it, the thing about um comic books is it's a lot like comedy in this sense where
hmm
if you love it and want to do it, you're probably going to do it basically for free for a long time
hmm
before you get paid for it. Um, so the good news is I love comedy and I would do it for free. I did do it for free for a long time. In comic books, I love comic books. I would do it for free. I do it for free. I mean, I make some money. The comic book's making money, but it's not a ton, and everything I make is
yeah,
just going back into making the book. I'm
hmm
just, everything we make is just going. I'm not taking a paycheck from it or anything like that
yeah.
yet.
It's just paying for the next one essentially.
Yeah, yeah, we're just reinvesting into everything else. So, conventions, printing, the next book, etc. So yeah, so it's not creative burnout. I do get burnt out just because um I have so much I have to do on top
Yeah,
of just tell jokes and
hmm
write comic books. You get into it because you want to do tell jokes, but you end up being I always tell people I have zero jobs, but I also have 87 jobs,
Oh yeah.
because like I don't just tell, stand-up comedy is how I pay my mortgage, but also it's not just jokes. It's writing jokes,
hmm
it's practicing the jokes, then it's also sending out emails for booking for me. Then it's videotaping, clipping the videos, adding captions, then posting them, becoming a content creator because that's how you have to do it to be
hmm
to gain traction. Then I run a production company for comedy too, so I run a bunch of comedy rooms across the country. So I'm always watching videos of comedians, booking them, sending flyers to the venues that we have shows coming up, paying out, doing payroll. So like it's a whole thing.
It's a whole
So,
process. Yeah,
yeah, and then also, I mean, I want to live a life.
yeah.
I try to go to the gym every day. I try to um I have four dogs. I have a cat. I have fucking 12 chickens. I got a
hmm
garden,
Yeah.
and then I want to like live my life. I want to do things to experience life to help build content,
hmm
like one of the biggest things as a comedian that I fell into for a while because it's like feast or a famine, right? And at a
Yeah.
certain point, you're not making any money, and when you get a chance to make money, you grab anything you can, right? And I got pretty aggressive with it and was able to get on the road early, which helped me a lot, but it meant I was just on the road, on the road, on the road, on the road for months at a time sometimes. And it really helped my career, it helped my things like that, but I also realized that like I wasn't living any life. And then I
hmm
wasn't like able to decompressed. I wasn't able to kind of file my thoughts, and I wasn't able to write new material
Yeah.
because I was just living the same life. You have to
hmm
go out and do things just to get some experience to kind of decompress and let your mind
Yeah.
file stuff, and then get experiences to draw off of for either comedy or comic books or anything.
Mm. No, yeah, no, I agreed. Yeah, like sometimes for me, I just need to just step away from everything and just reevaluate and reassess because I sometimes I feel like I just get so immersed in everything, I start to lose focus because
Yeah.
now everything is just a blur. And sometimes, a nice step away, could help a little bit. See the bigger picture a little clearer. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Oh,
Clean up the lenses a little bit.
some of my favorite things that I do now is if I'm driving to gigs, whether it's a couple hours, sometimes, anything more than like 5, 6 hours, I'm probably flying. But like,
Yeah.
um, I'll drive 5, 6 hours for a weekend, and then, you're staying somewhere for a weekend. But like, I'll drive 5 hours in silence. And I will talk to myself, I'll rant, I'll just think. And like that is some of the times I get to really like let my mind wander and come up with
Hmm.
new ideas and new thoughts. And I don't even like try to focus on anything particularly. I just let my mind go where
Just
it
let
needs
it go.
to go.
Just go where
And
you're gonna go. Yeah.
yeah, and sometimes I'll start thinking of something and I'll start talking about it, current events, and then I'll start talking shit about it, and they'll be like, "Oh, that's funny, that's a joke." And then sometimes I start thinking about something, and it'll get me onto an idea for a comic book, and I'll be like, "Oh, I should. That's a comic book series, or like that's a premise for this, or there's or that's an idea for a sketch. There's
Yeah.
I don't sit there and go like, okay, think about comedy. I just let my mind think, and it wherever it goes,
Yeah,
it's
it
where
goes, and sometimes you could find some sort of inspiration for whatever on that journey, wherever your mind is just wherever it's gonna go, wherever it's gonna get lost at, Yeah, no, definitely, definitely. Now, a good question here because I talk a lot about too how creators, trying to build your base, trying to get fans and engagement and stuff like that. Now, you already had a base because you do the stand-up comedy. Now, once you transition into now I'm starting to also put out comics, were you able to translate your current fan base onto the comics now? Because sometimes
yeah,
they're they could be two different worlds. Like, oh, I love stand-up comedy, but I'm not big into comic books.
right,
Or,
right.
like, what did that help you with putting out your first project and things like that? Because people already engaging with your content.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean a little bit. Yeah, it certainly helped. Because there's people that just support you as an artist, like
Yeah.
no matter
Hmm.
what you're doing, they get
They're
behind
invested.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're invested in you. Um, and then I see, some of those people stuck with the book, some of them just, for the first one. And that's fine, like whatever. And then some people, it's just not their thing. And then
Hmm.
there's some people who are like, I've had like middle-aged ladies who have never read a comic book in their life buy my comic book and then be like, "Oh, this is really good. I had no idea this could be a comic book. I had no idea
Hmm.
this was like what a book could be." And
Yeah.
I've got like 6-year-old ladies reading my book because they love it, So it's such a which to me is like the biggest compliment is not even a compliment. I would say accomplishment.
Yeah.
And I don't even want to take that as my accomplishment. I want to give it to the medium of comic books that like it's so much more than most people think.
Hmm.
There's stories in the medium of comic books for everyone.
Hmm.
So it is nice to see people who've never read a comic book and never would, besides the fact that they knew me and they picked it up just because they wanted to support me. And then they actually read it and they were like,
Yeah.
oh, this is actually fucking good.
Yeah.
I like this. So it's nice to be someone's gateway into a new medium.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I feel like, a lot of people who they're not into comics, never really were into comics. They're familiar with comic book as far as, all the Marvel movies and, everything like on TV and film. That's about as familiar as they are
Right,
with
right,
comic books. I feel like a lot of people just think, oh, they're all superheroes, bad guys versus good guy kind of thing.
right.
But there's so many different stories. You got horror, there's so many different stories, love stories that I feel like, when someone who would never pick up a comic book finally read something like, oh, this is
Yeah,
I didn't expect this. Hold up. Now you just brought somebody over who wouldn't ever read a comic book. Now like, wait, now there more of
yeah,
these kind
yeah.
of stories? Like, hold up. And now, they may not go and, to their comic book stores and fill up on everything, but they're invested in at least certain creators. Like, whoa,
Yeah.
this is
It's
kind of
open their
down
eyes.
my alley. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's I think you nailed it. Comic books is a medium. Superheroes is a genre where
Hmm.
it's that medium where it's like movies.
Yeah.
Movies have you can do anything in movies. To be fair, comic books is predominantly superheroes. I
Yeah.
don't know what percentage I'd put it at, but probably 70%
Hmm.
around, is probably superhero or a variation thereof.
Yeah.
So it dominates the field. So I get why
Mhm.
there's that perception from people who have very little knowledge of comic books. But yeah, to let people know, like, man, there's so much out there that it really you can do that and not only that, like you can tell stories that are really incredible stories, but use the superhero genre, right?
Yeah.
Like you can tell, so like, like Watchmen or something like that. Like Alan Moore used superheroes as archetypes to tell this story, but the story was not about good guys
Yeah.
punching
No.
bad guys because they broke the law.
Hmm.
That's what I was when I talk to people about Kill Stan. They're like, so it's like a vigilante story. I'm like, kind of, but no,
Yeah.
like him being a vigilante really has nothing to do with this. It's just a vehicle to sell people on the idea who might not pick up a story about a guy who wants to kill himself and is at his lowest. Like that
Mhm.
doesn't sell. But
Yeah.
that's what it's about. It's about him and his mental breakdown, his journey of loss and trauma and the crazy things we do when we feel like we have nothing to live for and how we cope with that. Now, obviously, it's pushed to an extreme when
Oh
he's
yeah.
he's doing, but like um again, those are vehicles to open this aperture up to more people. But the reality is the story is like a character piece. Like you can strip away the vigilante version part of it and like it's the core of it is still something people resonate with, and that's what I love about comic books or film even or anything. Like you can tell these incredible stories using these fantastical avatars. Because you can read books and be like, oh yeah, it's a guy with a mask and a vigilante and he punches in, cool, like action,
Yeah.
cool. And you're like, yeah, yeah, I mean there is that, but if you want to like push a little deeper, you
Hmm.
can really like this book and so many other books really can offer so much more than that.
Oh yeah, because then I feel at that point now you're invested in the character, and they're from point A to point B, and whatever they're doing now, you're like, okay, I want to see what they got going on because I feel like they're more than just about, fighting the bad guy because they broke the law. It's a deeper side to that character, and that's interesting to explore.
Yeah, 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 yeah. I mean, I've had people, it's interesting because it's polarizing because of the
Yeah.
the topic. It's about a guy who wants to kill himself. Yeah, there's
Hmm.
no way to slice it. And, I pitch that to people and I soft pitch it a little. I don't say suicide. I don't say it's a guy. I say it's a guy who wants to take his own life. I'm trying to softball it to people because people are
Hmm.
precious about shit. I understand.
Yeah.
Like, you know, and I go, so he decides to do it through vigilantism. That's the
Mhm.
one liner. And then, then I've got another couple sentences I'll give if it seems like their ears perk up at all. But I've had a lot of people go, oh, that's really dark. And I go, if you think that's dark, you're missing the point.
Hmm.
You're not, it's not dark. Life is dark, life is hard, life is complicated, life is ugly. If you can't admit that, then you're living in another reality that doesn't exist. So
Absolutely.
like I don't want to write things that are like bubbly, happy ending. Like I want to pull you through the shit, make you feel some things, make you fucking feel for him, make you feel for yourself, be like, holy shit, I've been there, you know, like I've never had a fucking a mask and a fucking machete and right, but I've been why he feels that way. Like I get
Yeah.
that, and I've
You've been
get
through
like
the pain.
yeah,
Yeah.
you're right, and like I mean. I was asked a while back about the whole thing about someone, what I think, what people, how many people really think about, you know, self-harm and taking their own life. And I go, and honestly, I think everyone does. I think
Yeah.
everyone has at some point in some capacity. Now, some people just have a really bad day and like, fuck, and like, the thought may come and it's gone. Other
Yeah.
people fucking
Dwell on it.
go
They sit
dwell
there
on it.
and
Other people
they're
go
like,
all
damn.
the, some people take it all the way home. So
Yeah.
I think it's just a reality. Like, I don't think that's a hard thing. I don't think that's a thing to shy away from. That's a thing to talk about. It's a hard
Mhm.
topic.
And it should be spoken about, you know what I'm saying? Because it's the reality. Like you
Yeah.
said, like at some point, everyone that thought has crossed their mind, whether it's for a quick second because they're just having a shitty day or they're going through something and
Yeah.
the thought of it sounds like a plausible solution at that moment. And then, like you said, there's some people that take it all the way home and do it, and it sucks, but it's the world we live in, you know,
Yeah.
and we can't really. It should be spoken about more. It's nothing to really to hide behind. It's serious. It's sometimes it get really dark, you know, and it's just bad for you.
Yeah. I mean that's the reason I wrote this book is that so my in I wrote this book in like I started writing it I think May of 2020, April of
Hmm.
2020. I'd have to go back and look. It was April or May of 2020 is when I started writing it. But the what happened is January of 2020, my best friend, another comedian, actually took his own life.
Sorry
And
to hear that.
thanks. It was I'd known him forever. He's best friend for a long time, and he'd been through some shit, and he'd
Yeah.
had some attempts before, and
Hmm.
it's one of those things where it's not a matter of if, it seems like a matter of when. You hope
Hmm.
you can kick the can down the road as far as possible, and then sometimes you think, oh, maybe we're past this, and then sometimes like shit, maybe we're not. Um, but anyway, that happened in January of 2020. Um, it was pretty, where I lived at the time in Washington State, it was like this kind of, we had this comedy community that him and I were a big part of. And, I was kind of one of the figureheads of that community. And then when he passed, everyone really kind of looked to me to kind of like, what do we do?
Yeah.
Kind of like for solace to kind of figure it out. And part of it is I've been through this before a lot in my life, and I've seen a lot of people die. I grew up in South Central LA in the '80s, man. I mean, I watched my best friend shot in front of me when I was 10 years old. You know what I'm saying? Like, I
Hmm.
mean, I've seen more people get killed than I'd like to admit. Um, so like for better or worse, I guess I'm like more equipped to deal with it.
Yeah. Because we're so used to it,
In which
having that as something we experience growing up as a kid. It stays with us till
yeah.
sadly it's kind of like a norm, you know?
Right. Yeah, it shouldn't be, and it makes you feel numb, and it makes you
Yeah.
feel like, man, I wish I wish I felt more about. Not that I didn't feel that I felt a lot. I felt a lot about it, but also you learn how to not let yourself feel about it. Like
Yeah.
because you have to hold it together for everyone
Hmm.
else and like kind
Hmm.
of be able to keep moving on.
Keep
Um,
face, yeah.
And so, anyway, I was like, I really never got to process this thing fully. And then, as soon as it was kind of like winding down, um, well, COVID hit.
Hmm.
I mean, March of 2020, COVID
Yeah.
hit. Then we're locked down. Now I can't see anyone. Everyone is isolated. I've got all this time to myself, and I'm like really unable to figure out how to process everything that's happening. With like, 'cause I'm still on my friend dying, not
Yeah.
in COVID. And then, I'm watching everyone in COVID. People's lives are crumbling, whether physically, financially, mentally, spiritually.
Yeah.
People are just breaking in ways that we've never experienced or seen before in our lifetime, right?
Hmm.
Uh, and I started thinking about this, and I'm really like, what, if you really wanted to take your own, if you really didn't give a shit, you had nothing else to live for, nothing, it did not fucking matter. Like how crazy could it get? And I kind of let this ruminate, and I started thinking about this. Um, and then I had uh, I was looking at something and I saw the phrase suicide by cop, right? And I'm like,
Hmm.
and then I'm like, oh, what about suicide by vigilantes? I'm like, that's interesting. And I'm like, oh, wait. And then I took that idea, married it up with everything else I've been thinking about, and I just started writing.
Yeah.
And this is what came out. It's like it was like this catharsis uh of those events, and I've had a lot of people who have experienced trauma or felt like harming
Hmm.
themselves or really, had some instability mentally where they've come back after they've read it and they'd be like, wow, thank you. Like this is really like I really feel seen
Hmm.
with this book. I really feel like I understand what Stan is going through. And that means a lot to me, that really that people can because that's what I wanted. I wanted this to be a thing where people could be like, I get that. I've been there,
Yeah, I've been in that I've been in that space, that
Y-
headspace, you know?
Yeah. So that was like it's nice that it's resonating for people and it's
Yeah.
people feeling it.
Hmm. Yeah, because it brings, like you said, it's not something a lot of people talk about. So those that, that go through it, that sit in that headspace sometimes, they're like, oh, I'm not the only one. Like clearly, there's others, there's more people like me going through it. And it may not be to the point where, I want to go through with it, but the fact that I'm there, sometimes
Right.
it's scary enough
Yeah.
being just there, is could be a little too much. And I think that's and the crazy part about me, I think being there, because I've been there so many times, is what pulls me back is creating. Because then, I don't want to be, I don't want to be the person that does it. So I feel like I need to channel that energy, or I want to put a gun to my head or whatever it is,
Yeah.
and how can I make this positive? Clearly, there's something wrong. So let me focus on something else. And I
Yeah.
feel like creating, putting that into whether it's because I do music, whether it's a song or a book or a comic book or anything, just releasing that energy. But
Well, that's the thing about this is I've said this a lot while working on this project. Um that it doesn't even have to be, wanting to take your own life. Like, right, like I always say the worst thing that's ever happened to you is still the worst thing that's ever happened to you, right?
mhm,
And what I mean by that is you can take 10 people and ask them the worst thing that's ever happened to them. And objectively, from the outside, you could take those 10 things and you could probably put them in order as far
yeah,
as worst to least worst, right?
yeah,
But to those 10 individuals,
that's the worst thing that's happened to them.
it's the same level, right? Because
Yeah,
it's the worst that's ever happened. They haven't experienced worse. So like it is still the worst thing they've ever experienced. So to them, it feels the same. You know what I'm saying?
hmm
So like that was kind of part of it too. Is like I wanted to let people know like this isn't really, you know, it doesn't have to be a specific thing
hmm
that makes you feel this way or feel bad, or it doesn't have to be like, it can be so many things. It can be
yeah,
anything, you know. Um, so yeah, I just wanted it to be really open so people can kind of feel it no matter where they're at.
yeah. No, like that. As soon as I started scrolling through the PDF and I got to that panel where, he had the gun to his head, I'm like, okay, I can kind of see where this is going. That's why I was like, I'm interested in reading this. Like, let me finish what I'm doing so I could throw this on my iPad and just sit there, smoke a blunt, 'cause that's what I do.
Yeah.
And, that's I roll my blunt, and that's when I get into, like, I love to read that way. Yeah, I feel like I absorb the story more, and I was like, this is what I'm gonna do today, you know.
Yeah.
But do you sell your books at your shows? Like, I mean, I've been to a few comedy shows, and I know, they, a lot of them do a meet and greet and have some merch that they sell. Like, do you do that as well? Like, do you sell
Yeah.
your books at your shows, and has
Yeah.
that been successful for you?
I mean, that's subjective, successful enough that I keep doing it. I mean,
Oh
I'm not
yeah,
selling it gangbusters. Like I sell shirts after shows.
yeah,
I I've sold shirts after shows for a decade, and that's pretty reliable. Everyone wears a shirt if they like,
yeah.
whether they can, if they'll buy a shirt from you because they like
Hmm.
you, you know. The comic book is a little more laser specific.
Yeah,
But I've certainly had people, when you're doing clubs and you're doing a week, 4 shows in a weekend, and you're doing, I don't know, 250 people a show, you're talking 1,000 people in a weekend, you'll get like, uh, I, uh, I mean, if I get 5 people a show that buy comic books, that's probably a good one. But I
yeah,
mean, it's like those are people who buy the book, read the book. They usually buy all 3 copies, buy multiple covers or something. And also they follow me on Instagram, and then maybe they're going to buy the next one.
yeah.
So like
Hmm.
it's worth it to at least try. But I mean, I always sell at least a couple copies. And to me, it's like,
Nice.
it doesn't take much. I can, it's not like it takes much to pack them. And then,
Yeah.
I'll sell them. And it's like, yeah, I mean, it's a little more niche, than
Yeah.
selling shirts, but
I also
you know,
feel that's different. 'Cause, like you see a lot of merch tables, like you said, they got T-shirts, maybe some stickers or whatever. But when you see a comic book, I feel like, oh wow, I feel like that'll bring a little more intrigue because it's so different. Like,
yeah,
wait a minute, he does comic books too. Okay, this is. Let me see what this is about. I would. I mean, but then again, I love comic books too,
yeah,
so
yeah.
you
It's,
know.
I mean, I've had people buy the book that probably aren't comic book readers, but it's mostly
Hmm.
people who it seems like they're
Yeah.
at least tangentially involved or interested in
Hmm.
books, which again is great. It's it's kind of to be expected. Again, a shirt is ubiquitous. Everyone wears a shirt every day.
Hmm. Yeah.
So it's easy to sell. After a show, you can sell fucking 25 shirts pretty easily or more. That's pretty simple, but it's just math. But like the comic book is a little more specific.
Now,
Anything.
have you ever done conventions? Like, you ever done cons?
Oh yeah, I did.
Okay,
I did 2 this weekend. I did one Friday and one Saturday
nice.
today. I did. I think I did 36 conventions in 2025.
Wow,
Uh,
working.
yeah, yeah, man. It's like that burnout is real. Um,
Because
so
that's a lot of conventions on top of touring, doing your regular shows, and then having to do that's a lot.
yeah.
That's a lot of dealing with a lot of different people.
Well, I mean, here's the thing. Like, we got 52 weeks in a year, so that's you figure what I had 11 week or no wait 2019 week or wait, am I doing math right? 14 16 weekends off, and so most of those weekends I was probably doing comedy, so I probably had like 3 weekends off last year, which is fucking nuts. But so a lot of what I do, so my plan was I really wanted the first year to, get the 3 issues out at least, which we did. I wanted to do as many conventions as I could do, and I really wanted to just get as many books out as I could. That was the
Mhm,
goal. Just get out and hit the ground running. This year I'm pulling it back a little because I have a fan base.
mhm.
I have retailers that carry me. I have repeat customers that come back for new books. So it's kind of carrying itself a little more. But um, I was able to, and we're doing that this year too. What I did is I would find conventions that I wanted to go do, and then I would just book comedy shows in that town in the same.
Around that, that makes a lot of
Yeah.
sense.
So
That makes a
yeah,
lot of sense.
I'd go in, I'd book shows like usually like Thursday, Friday, Saturday night. I do shows, and then
Hmm.
the convention is like Saturday, Sunday. So, Saturday's a long day. Um, but what are you gonna do? That's part of the
Yeah.
gig. But I mean, so I come in town Friday, do a show Thursday, set up the convention Friday, do a show Friday, Saturday convention show, Sunday just the convention, then
Yeah.
Sunday, Monday morning I'd go home. Um, and that was really good because then I'm really doubling down on income also making,
Oh
not
yeah.
just doing one thing in a place in a weekend. So
Nice, nice. Yeah, no, hell yeah. And now being a stand-up comic, do you kind of bring that same energy to being behind a table at a con? And because you go to a con, a lot of the creative, a lot of them, they're quiet, working on
yeah,
some stuff. Like, do you bring that? Because you bring that same energy to
a
your
a
table
little
at the con,
bit.
or you tone it down a bit?
I mean, you kind of have to be a carnival barker if you want to move units.
Yeah,
I see a lot of people at these conventions and they sit behind the table and they're just like meek and don't say a word. And then at the end of the weekend, they didn't sell anything. It's like, yeah, yeah,
yeah,
like, you're just banking on people coming up to you and throwing money at your face. Like you kind of gotta talk to people like, hey, what's up, guys? I like your shirt, or what's that you got there? What'd you buy? If someone has a stack of comic books they found somewhere holding it back, he's like, oh, what'd you
mhm,
find? And part of it is to get them over the booth, but part of it is like, I fucking love
yeah,
old comic books. Like, let's just talk about what you bought
yeah.
also.
Hmm.
And usually we'll talk about it for a while, and then they're like, well, what do you do? And I'm like, oh, well, this is my book. And so it's a little bit of just kind of being part of the atmosphere and talking
Hmm.
to people and yeah, being gregarious. And so yeah,
Yeah,
it helps because I don't have a lot of creators, and probably the stereotype for people who read comic books is kind of like a nerdy guy, or kind of like a shy. You're not real outgoing.
yeah.
So
That's definitely the stereotype people have,
yeah,
especially when they go to cons.
right. I mean, I'm not that. Like I'm fucking I'm I'm loud, I'm brash, I'll fucking say crazy shit, I'll fucking talk to anyone, I'll do anything. I don't give a
Uh-huh.
fuck.
Yeah.
So like I'm just there having fun, because I like the
Hmm.
environment. So it like kind of charges me up anyway. So I'm just kicking and having fun, and like that energy, I think it's just
Yeah.
that energy is what gets
Mhm.
people over to the booth.
Yeah, I'm the same way. Like I'm so used to being on stage where, now that I'm just doing conventions, I still have that energy. I'm a character, like I'm
Yeah.
on 24 hours a day. Like I try to sit there behind the table. I can't. I need to be out
Yeah.
and about. Hey, look what I got. Come check this out. You know what I'm saying? Like, like you want to see something dope? Come to my table. Like a table. Oh, you make comic books? I do a lot of things, but today I'm doing comic books.
Yeah.
And I remember the first time I was at a booth, I didn't have any, I was becoming a creator. When a story was still being worked on. I was at a booth with Indiana, I think it was IndieCon with Comics Elite. Um and Sean, he's my homeboy, that's my brother. And he was like, "Yo, come up to the con and we'll hang out and da da da." And then I got to sit back there and and I'm being the Comics Elite cheerleader for the day. Yo, look what we got! Look, and he had my homeboy Ryan Kincaid with him. Doing
Oh
he
yeah.
had some variants with him. I
Wow.
love that dude. I love him. And then he was like, "Yo, Mal, you got a lot of energy, don't you?" I'm like, yeah, because he's sitting there doing some sketch covers, and I'm just like, yo, check out my boy. Like, yeah. I'm just all over the place, and he's like, you gotta tone it down a bit. I'm like, I can't. I'm just, this is me, 24 hours a day, man. Like,
Yeah.
you gotta see me at home alone. I'm like, hey, with the amount of weed I smoke, I should be a little more calm and relaxed.
Yeah,
And I'm
yeah.
like, no,
Yeah, you
they're
got to
like,
get on that indica, man.
yeah, no, I need to. I can't be slouched.
Yeah.
I need to be on
Yeah.
the go, and Coke is not my thing. So, you know what I'm saying? Because I feel like you said, if you want to sell your product to people who don't know you,
Yeah.
you kind of you gotta grab their attention one way. You can't really sit there if you're unknown and expect people to come to you. It doesn't work, especially when you're at a big convention, when you're being overshadowed by all the major brands that are upstairs. And
Yeah.
even if they do come to you, they probably already spent their money on photo ops and SIG opportunities and grading and this and that. By the time they come to Artist Alley, they got like $50 left. And you know and why should I spend even 10 of this on you? You kind of got to give them a reason.
Oh
So
yeah.
I
Yeah,
you
man.
know,
It's
I
part of the
always try
game.
to stay on. Yeah, you gotta, for lack of a better word, you gotta sell yourself.
Yeah.
You know, you gotta sell yourself because, like you said earlier, people invest in you. They buy your books, because they're invested in you and the creator and the artist, because they love your comedy. Oh man, if he's funny as hell. Oh, he's making comic books. Oh man, this is completely different, but yo, it's just as dope. So
Yeah.
next thing he puts out, whether it's a Netflix special or a new series you're putting out, they be like, well, everything I've seen so far has been home run. Now everything he puts out, I'm just with it because what I'm just a fan, I'm a fan of his, not the comedy or the comic. I'm a fan of his, and I think that's what it's all about, because when they like you, they like everything you put out. You could put out crap and they're gonna like it.
Yeah. They'll at least support it.
you know. Now transitioning over to comics and looking for artists and helping, finding a team that is gonna bring your vision to life. How was that experience?
Um, not bad actually. For me, I can imagine.
That's why I'm like, okay, if it didn't go as bad, I'm interested in your story because
Yeah,
you got a lot of horror stories on this side.
I can imagine it can be a nightmare, right? Like,
Oh,
I mean, I'm in enough Facebook comic book indie comic creator groups. I've met enough creators. I know, like, I get it. I can see how it could be a nightmare. But here's a couple things that I was really, um, I'm I'm very discerning, and I knew what I wanted.
mm-hmm,
Very specifically, I knew what I wanted. I knew I wanted the book to look. I knew the style I wanted it to be in. I knew, I wanted a neo-noir feel. I knew the way I wanted it to be colored.
mm-hmm,
Uh, I mean, everything. Like this is not me comparing myself to Alan Moore as a writer, but when people ask my writing style, I'm like, it is more like that. Like I am so specific with
mm-hmm,
scenes. I mean, I do thumbnails even in rough breakdowns for my artists to give an idea of like how the pages should be laid out. I'm very specific because I have a way I want to look. So, I just put out very simply, and also I produce comedy shows. I produced a lot of things. I've managed people. Like
mm-hmm,
I was very specific when I asked. I'm like, I'm doing a comic book. It's a neo-noir feel, darker, grittier, urban comic book.
mm-hmm.
Um, like think about that when you said if you're going to reply, because like if you send me some fucking shiny manga thing, like you're just wasting our time,
Yeah,
basically. Yeah, I'm like I'm not saying that's you're bad at what you do. That just
it's just
doesn't
not what you're looking for. Yeah.
project, like,
Mm-hmm,
so I'm like, don't waste your time, don't waste mine. I was very specific. And I'm like, I go, here's the email, send me your portfolio, send me your page rates, send me your contact information. I started getting replies, and I fished through them. It was pretty quick. I could look at a couple pages, maybe even a page or a panel, and be like, no, no, yeah,
yeah.
and I narrowed it down to three people. Um, for the artist, and I scheduled Zoom calls with all of them. And I got on a call and I just said, like, hey, I talked about the project. I talked about my expectations for the project. I talked about what I expected from them. I asked them what they would expect from me, besides paying them and on time and stuff, but like, just to make sure we were all on the same page. And I did the same thing with my colorist. He does the letters also. But and then I wrote up little contracts, just
Yeah.
pretty basic contracts, sent them over, and off we went. And it's been great. My artist fucking kills it. The guy, um, you know, he's very good at bringing my vision to life. Again, I'm very specific, and sometimes he's like, "Hey, man, what do you think of this?" And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes I'm like, "Oh, that's great." And then sometimes I'm like, "Actually, no, I want
Yeah.
to do this for just because
Mm-hmm.
and for reasons." And then The way it's colored, I wanted it to be a very specific coloring. I'm sure you'll notice as you start reading the book, the coloring we use and the way we use things. But um, the it took a little bit going back and forth with the colorist and being like, no, let's try that again, do this, a little more saturation here, a little more this, a little more texture. But then once we got through the first issue, now it's just he just fucking
Yeah, because you already
it's
got
like no
the
notes.
foundation.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, so it really wasn't. I guess I'm fortunate. I'm fortunate, but also I was very diligent and specific about what I
Mhm.
wanted and what I was gonna and I know what I want. So when I started
Yeah,
looking, I'm like, easy, easy, no, easy, no, easy, no.
yeah.
Like it's very quick.
Yeah, that's what's up. Especially, the fact that you knew what you wanted and like, this is how it's got to be.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure like that helped with your experience and weeding through, cause through the madness. I mean, I think speaking for myself as well, definitely been scammed. You know what I'm saying? Like it's tough out there, but it's not always bad.
Yeah.
And not everyone has a bad story starting starting out you know, in this field, putting together this kind of project. But yeah, no, it's good to finally hear a positive story.
Well, I mean, I've done enough business in my life
Yeah.
that
So you already
I
had the
think,
experience in producing a project, putting
yeah,
it
yeah.
together, how you want it, the way it needs to be, like this is it. And I'm open to listening to what your ideas, but this is pretty much how it's
Yeah,
gonna
at
go.
the
So
end of the
that
day, I'm
the
paying
fact that you
for
had that experience was pretty helpful
Yeah,
too.
yeah, you just I know people and I could that's why I had wanted to hop on and have Zoom calls with people and like really talk about it for a minute and get a vibe for the person. I'll tell anyone out there if you're thinking about doing this, I'll give you some tips. Um if you're like when you're looking for I mean anything, say we'll say artist just because that's the most common you're looking for,
Yeah.
but the way I structured it is he'll send me there's no payment up front. He'll send me breakdowns, like rough breakdowns, if or I'll send him ones and then he'll kind of do his and I'll approve them. Then he will do the pencils. I'll approve the pencils. Then he'll do the inks and I will approve the inks. And
Hmm.
then the once the pages are done, I will pay him
Hmm.
uh, for only through PayPal friend or PayPal goods and services because that's
Always, yeah,
100%
protect
refundable.
yourself with that. Hmm.
Yeah, you will
Yeah,
protect
even if they want friends and family, like nope. I've even I'll even put in an extra $2 so you don't gotta
the
eat the fee.
fees.
But
Yeah,
goods and
yeah.
services protects you because if you get scammed,
They'll
you're out of luck.
yeah. Well, and then so once I pay him, he'll send me the TIFF files.
Yeah,
So like until before that I just have like basically low res.
yeah,
I mean you could print them but it'd
you could tell.
be the
Yeah,
same. I mean they'd be fine but it wouldn't be as good as it could be. So like
mm,
but I wouldn't do that anyway. But the point is like I'm never paying for anything. I'm not, it's like a real good artist would understand like, the shitty thing is that a writer can scam an artist too by asking them to do something and then not paying them.
oh yeah,
Uh,
no, absolutely, yeah,
but the way we structured it is that I every 5 pages I pay him. So it's not like he's doing a whole book and then I never pay him. Yeah, I never get the book, but also he did all this work. It's every 5 pages
yeah,
completely. I pay him. So he's got money flowing in and it's consistent. I mean, now we're a little looser with it on our fourth
yeah.
book.
Because you already got that working reports already
Yeah,
going on issue 4. You already know how he knows you're good for it. You knows he's good for
right.
it. So
Yeah.
a lot of that goes out the window now.
I mean, but yeah, when you're first starting out, you really, yeah, you gotta make sure um everyone's on board and committed. It's tough. I get it because like the
Yeah,
finances are nebulous at best. I mean, I the way I did it is I paid for the first book completely out of pocket. Then I ran a Kickstarter for it. Um, but basically, I just used that money to print the book for the people who bought it, and then I rolled all the money into making number two.
Yeah.
Uh, and then I've just kind of kept it going that way. So,
Okay. All right. Yeah. I mean, it seems to work because, like I said, issue one looks dope already. And for the other two issues, you can get them directly from your web store, right?
yep, we got a website, Inferno.earth. There's a shop on there. We've got a couple different covers for each book. You can throw them in the cart or check out uh, right through the website. We'll ship them out to you.
Now, how now your website selling on your website? Do you find that helpful too, or Kickstarter is just like the way to go?
Well, no, actually, I prefer people buy on the website.
Yeah.
The uh, Actually, what I've been trying to do is every Kickstarter, I've been lowering the dollar amount we're trying to gather. I mean, obviously, blowing through the dollar amount is always great, but what I've been doing is advertising is like, hey, go to the Kickstarter, or you can just pre-order on our website.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to get, because I mean, why would I let Kickstarter take
Take
13% of
that.
my
Yeah.
when
Hmm.
I can just get that person to go straight to me? And then also that person doesn't have to create a Kickstarter account if they don't have one and yada yada. So they can just go to my website and buy directly from me and pre-order it. That's what I've been encouraging people to do.
Hmm.
Uh, that so slowly I'm trying to transition everyone into doing that. So
Yeah.
I, just so everything runs right through my website. We'll always do a Kickstarter just because we get organic traffic. You
Yeah.
know, people on we get orders on Kickstarter every time from people I don't know, new people that would never find us any other way. So like, we'll do a Kickstarter. Probably, I think we're doing like 2,000 this one. For the next one, I'll probably do like 1,500, and I'm
Yeah.
probably gonna keep lowering it. Probably like 1,200 will be like the bottom, maybe
Yeah.
15. I'll stop at that. But like, so people can at least find it who normally wouldn't. But otherwise, it's just encouraging people to buy directly from us.
Yeah, that works. No, absolutely. Yeah, no, absolutely. But, Deece, on that note, I want to thank you for giving us, giving this platform some time.
Yeah.
Kill Stand, if you guys haven't checked it out, there's gonna be links below. Check that out now because it's dope. And then, when issue four comes out, we'll probably have you back on and we could talk about the Kickstarter and what we got next after that.
Yeah, man. Guys, if you follow the Kickstarter for number four, we're trying to get as many followers on the pre-launch page before it launches. We're all at the mercy of the algorithm gods these days. So the more followers on the pre-launch page, the higher it goes in the algorithm when it launches, the faster we fund, which looks better. So all those things help a ton. So even if you don't want to buy the book, like just go follow go to Kickstarter, find Kill Stand 4, hit notify me of launch, and that's all you have to do. That helps a ton. But we are going to have some cool books, some really cool exclusives on the Kickstarter. We always do. You get first access to the book. You can or you can order number one through three on the website now, or you can go through and do it on the Kickstarter when it launches. Um, and yeah, follow us on inferno.earth is the Instagram. You can find me at deece.comedy on Instagram, my website, Deece Comedy. And then I got a web or podcast, The Social Hour, new episodes every Wednesday.
There you go, folks. You heard it there. On that note, once again, thank you for your time today, and we'll catch you again.
Thanks, guys.
I have a good one. Welcome today, folks. Today's going to be a little different on this segment of this episode because, usually have creators and all that, but we got my number one homie right here. You know what I'm saying? I want to introduce you to Nicole Langley. She is a licensed mental health counselor, right, in New York. See, I
Hmm.
got it right. I got it right. Got it right. I should know this. It's only
You
been like
should.
10 years. And you're also a licensed professional counselor in Wyoming and Colorado.
Yes.
So, since you got a license in Colorado, can you send me some weed? No,
No, I'm not
no,
that
that's
fancy.
not. That's not. You're not up there yet.
None of my jurisdiction. Sorry,
Mm.
guys.
Well, the reason, I decided to, bring Nicole on, we were having this conversation and it actually came up in other interviews, not in just this podcast, but throughout the community on Facebook as well. We talk about mental health, you know what I'm saying? So we're not gonna sit here and have a therapy session, but some signs are good to recognize and you know, she's been there. Shit. I wouldn't be here. Put it this way, I would not be here if she was not around. She influenced me to just think outside the box.
Stay alive.
And when it came to, yes, because I was at that point with music where I was stuck. I didn't know what to do. I kind of felt like I was getting too old for music. And when we was back at Target back in the day, and I had that little crazy comic book idea, you're like, do it. You know what I'm saying? So you were kind of, with me through that, especially through the many downs that I've had in this journey of being a creator, especially in comic books and stuff like that. But before we go on, just tell me a little bit, tell us a little bit about you, about what, your qualifications.
Yeah, sure. So yeah, thanks for having me. I am, like you said, a licensed mental health counselor in the state of New York and also a licensed professional counselor in Wyoming and Colorado. So that does not allow me to prescribe anything. It
See,
basically just means I'm a provider of therapy.
weed
Um,
is therapy. It's very
for some
therapeutic.
people, it sure is. Yeah.
It's very therapeutic.
Uh, I'm more on the proponent of talk therapy. I think it's really great for people, regardless of what they're going through, just to get their stuff out. I think a lot of us get in our heads a lot, stay stuck in our heads,
Hmm.
and then
Hmm.
it can cause more problems. It can complicate problems. So my thoughts on therapy are really it's just a good platform, just to vent a lot of the time. It doesn't have to be anything dramatic or serious or crazy. And I think really everybody in the world at any time can benefit from it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And it gets it gets a little crazy when we're sitting down and trying to dig into our brains to come up with the next, just putting a project together, um, especially going through it, and a
Mhm.
couple things. Hold on, let me shut off the phone because crazy people are calling me. But anyway,
And give them a number.
no, but you're not you're not a creator, so it's a little different. But you are very arts and craftsy. You know what I'm saying? I think you've got more arts and crafts stuff in your house than most schools. But because I've always, especially you've told me a few times, that was always kind of like an outlet.
Mhm.
You've always been a hustler.
Mhm.
You would be looking for a job while working three other jobs. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, burnout and things like that, I'm pretty sure you're very familiar with it. But from your professional perspective, what makes creative work more emotionally, different from other types of work?
Yeah.
Putting together these projects opposed to, the regular daily grind of sitting in an office or
Mhm.
working with customers and clients and things
Mhm.
like that.
I think creators and artists are ability, like they're putting themselves out there for the world to see in a way that, other folks in other industries don't necessarily have to, right? So you like working in retail, you can go to work and kind of put on an act of like, I'm happy, things are good, like this is what it is, and it could be a show, and you clock out at 5 o'clock and go home and things are not fine,
Hmm.
right? And I think a lot of people do that in life and in careers and in social interactions with family. But when you have a creator or an artist, they're, putting work out, whether it's comics or music or, paintings and drawings, there's a real sense of emotion that goes into it because a lot of the times you guys don't necessarily just think of these things, you know, in the shower one day. They're things you've
Sometimes.
been through. Right, but
Sometimes.
it's based on something you've been through or experienced or seen.
Hmm.
Um, and then you're, kind of turning that around and putting it out in a story or a song for all the world to see. And then there's, it kind of opens you up to criticism. It opens you
Mm-hmm.
up to just that vulnerability.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. Like, one thing I know I do, I've spoke, I've spoken to a bunch of musicians and artists and painters and everything else, you know what I'm saying? And a lot of similar response I get is, they always put a little bit of themselves into their projects. You could, hold on a second. Everybody puts a little bit of themselves into a project, like, is that a reason like a lot of us tend to kind of push back a little bit, especially when, we're afraid of getting that things don't go our way,
Mhm.
people not really liking it, that criticism sometimes, because even doing this podcast, I'm so used to being out and about. I've performed in front of so many people, but when I came to the comic scene and just being more one-on-one with people,
Mhm.
I would get anxiety. Like, oh my God. Like, even today I was
Mhm.
like, oh my God. Every day before I interview somebody, I'm like, oh my God, am I gonna do right? Is this gonna be good? Like, I start to kind of doubt myself, even though I know I'm a people person. I can easily gather a conversation.
Mhm.
Like, what do you think about that? Like, why does that tend to fuck with us a little more extra? You know?
Mhm. I mean, I think in part it's that vulnerability piece, right? Like you're putting yourself out there and then that opens it up to people saying, well, this isn't good, this sucks. And then, okay, well, now am I a bad person? Like, do I suck? Um, but I think like beyond that, you can go perform in front of a crowd of hundreds and thousands of people and it's a
Hmm.
show and
Yeah.
you're a character essentially. So it's not you as a person sometimes.
Hmm.
And there's potentially a little bit of separation there, but then at the end of the day too, like you are that person, you become that person,
Hmm.
right? Like you are Malice, Mal, whatever you want to call it, because we don't use your government name.
We don't use that. No, we don't use it. It's like my niece says, "Oh, you said his name. He's
Right.
gonna punch you in the face."
And you've embodied that in all that it
Hmm.
is, good, bad, and ugly.
Yeah.
And you can kind of separate yourself or create yourself in a way, but at the end of the day, that's still you. Like
Hmm.
regardless of what name you go by, or if you have like a ghostwriter writing your stuff or anything like that, like it's still you and you're putting
Hmm.
yourself out there, and it's a really vulnerable thing to do.
Yeah, no, yeah, you're right. Like I like to put a little bit of my story into everything. Like Chaos
Mhm.
Theory, Chronicles of Malo and Cramp. You know what I'm saying? I like to put a little bit of that little
Mhm.
Latin spice, that little ghetto-ness into my
Right.
my my creations. But I also feel like I I carry a bigger burden because I at the same time like I'm in love with two cultures, man, hip hop and comic books, and I'm just on the verge of trying to do. I'm not gonna say the impossible because anything is possible, but trying to bring those two together it's definitely overwhelming, and I'm starting to
Mhm.
kind of feel like I don't know if it's burnout
Yeah.
or maybe I'm just tired or I don't know. Like, what do you think is the difference between like I don't know if I'm burned out or I'm just overworked, I'm tired,
Right.
maybe I'm just I don't know what's the next step. Like,
Mhm.
you know, what should I look out for when it comes to, burnout, especially burnout, because we know that could be bad.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and I think people can burn out in all sorts of fields, not even just the creative world, but I
Yeah.
think especially for creators and artists, it's probably a lot easier because you're doing this all day, every day in some
Hmm.
aspects, right? Like you're always thinking about the next project, you're always thinking about the last project that just dropped. And at some point, there's no break. You can't leave work at 5 o'clock and go home because
Yeah.
work is always working.
Hmm.
Um, I think like when you're thinking about like, well, am I tired? Am I burnt out? Like, am I just having like a creative block? It really comes down to like, what does that recovery look like? Can
Hmm.
you take a week off and rest and recover and go sit on the beach somewhere and feel great and come back and be like, I'm ready to go?
Hmm.
Or do you do that and you come back and you're like, fuck, I still don't want to do this,
Yeah. So what
and then
should we
it's more
do
so like,
when we're getting on when we feel like that? Like you said, we step away, we go for a walk, smoke break,
right,
watch a movie. Like, even if that don't work, like,
mhm,
like, well, what's going on?
yeah. I mean, I think sometimes for a lot of people, it's you really do have to take like a full break from it. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to say walk away from it entirely, but like, I mean, even think about for yourself, right? Like, you put out music many, many years ago. It was everything you did all the time. You know, you were
Mm-hmm.
touring, you were this, you were that, and then it stopped,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
And like, you took a pretty big gap there before your
Sheesh.
next project.
Yeah. Between music projects, it was when the hell did Trailer Park Man? It was like almost over. It was like about 15 years or so, 10 years or something like that. Because my last album came out in 2011, and that's when it all
Mhm.
came to a halt. And I don't know. As a creator, I just felt like it wasn't enough.
Right.
Especially just getting into my 30s, being realistic. Like, do I want to be a rapper in
Right.
my 40s still? I'm not saying struggling. We had our fun. We did our thing. We made our dollars. We weren't big and famous, but we did
Mhm.
our thing.
Yeah.
But I just felt like sometimes we need more, and I kind of feel like that's when we start to overload on ideas, and we
Hmm.
try to we try to put too many eggs in too many baskets at the same time.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
you know. I used to ask you like, what should I do? What should I do? I don't know what to do. Like I'm just all I know how to do is
Mhm.
rap. I know how
Right.
to rap and make stories. And then you and Matt were like, yo, let him just write a comic book. I was like, I could do that.
Yeah.
I could do that. And then, you know, the craziness on that was insane. How many times I was like, how many times I wanted to quit? Like I can't do this.
Right.
Can't do this. This was hard. I
Hmm.
can't do it. What the fuck do I know about
Yeah.
putting a comic book together? I could say drugs all day. I can't put a comic book together to save my life.
Right.
Like I just didn't know that path, and
Mhm.
it got dark a lot. And that's one thing I feel like a lot of us tend to do. We go into these dark places and we always need that way out, and sometimes knowing what it's gonna look like before we get in there could kind of save time, save a life. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
what should we look out for when we feeling like, we just need to step away and just clear our mind and before we kind of dig ourselves a little bit too much into this abyss, you know?
I mean, I think like some things just to look out for in terms of, potential burnout or is this burnout versus I'm just tired or having creative block is um you're like, what is your attitude towards the creative process, right? Are you dreading
Hmm.
it? Is it now all of a sudden something that you're like feeling obligated to do or to participate in?
Hmm.
Um, do you just feel like you don't care one way or the other? Like this could flop, it could take off, and I just don't really care. I think of like
Hmm.
the analogy of like somebody could give you $1 million or tell you they just ran over your cat, right? And you kind of have the same reaction, like, meh,
Yeah, like yeah.
okay. Um, that's a pretty big sign of burnout, right? Like just kind of flat, no feelings.
Hmm.
I think obviously beyond that, there's darker thoughts of like not wanting to be here anymore, feeling like it's too
Yeah,
much just to be alive almost.
yeah.
Um,
It's a
and I
very
think
scary place.
yeah, and I think that's where, for creators and artists, it kind of it's a fine line between like that passion and pursuing that passion and it becoming too much, right?
Hmm.
Like now it's not just all your energy is into these projects, but now it's your full identity as well.
Yeah.
And then you don't have the energy left to create, let alone to be yourself. And then what do you do? Do you
Hmm.
start over? Like you
Yeah.
said, like everything you wanted to do was make music and be a rapper. And then as you got older, well, now maybe that's changed. So now who am I
Yeah.
as a person?
Yeah.
And it
Yeah.
can bring a lot of like moods and mood swings is not probably the right way to put it, but like a lot of emotional fluctuation.
Yeah. I feel like I suffered a massive identity crisis. And it's
Hmm.
not because
Yeah.
I don't know who I am. I know exactly who I am, but
Right.
what I can be. You know what I'm saying? It was more of
Mhm.
a what was next, and I didn't know what was next. Because where I come from, thinking about being a comic book creator or things like that, it wasn't really, especially when at my age growing up, that wasn't a thing. It wasn't.
Mhm.
It was either you went to you either went to military You went to college, you went to work, or you hustle. That's it.
Hmm.
It was
Yeah.
we weren't really sitting down and, you know, shit like that. You know what I'm saying? And I chose to hustle, work and hustle. So when it came to doing something different outside of my norm and out my world, I was like, I don't, what if I don't fit in? You
Hmm.
know, and fitting in and, not feeling good enough too. Like, it's a shitty feeling, you know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
I feel like being a creator, we take that a little more personal. You know, we put up a post of a, you
Mhm.
know, a cover that we're working on, or some of the internal pages, and you're gonna get some love. Oh, that's cool, that's dope, that's great. And you got that one person where it's like, oh, this is whack, this is shit. And I
Hmm.
feel like we'll take that one comment
Oh
to the
yeah.
heart, and I
Mhm.
feel like that's where it could get dark. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like,
Hmm.
and
And
when
the
we do,
comparison piece too of,
yeah,
everybody's, you see all these people who are like overnight internet sensations off of like one song or,
yeah,
one clip or whatever. And then it's like, well, why can't I do that? What's wrong with
yeah,
me? Why am I not being successful like that? And I mean, you've seen a lot of artists in the last couple of years with like TikTok and Instagram and stuff like that, like they do cover songs and now all of a sudden they're like, record, like have record deals and they're touring
yeah,
and all this stuff. And it's like,
mm-hmm,
damn, okay, like you've been in this game for a while and then like you're not blowing up on TikTok. Like, what's wrong with me?
yeah,
Uh, and that can really get to somebody. I mean, it gets to people even outside the creative world. Social media
mm-hmm.
can be a really big source of anxiety, stress. It can really mess with people's heads.
Oh, absolutely. This has not been a, it's not been a, I've, don't get me wrong, I've had tons of fun. I've met great people. I mean, I've had a lot of fun, but mentally, it was a shit show. It's
Oh
a shit
yeah.
show, you know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Because, like I said, not feeling good enough could
Right.
suck. We a lot of us that are doing this, we work, we got life, we got bills, we got
Mhm.
families, we got this, we got life, we got everything, and this is whatever little spare time we could carve out each day or week, we kind of put our all into this, you know what I'm saying? So
Mhm.
not feeling good enough is a huge deterrent. And when we feel like that, like what kind of advice you would have for someone just when they start to get into that headspace, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Before they're there, like once they kind of see that coming, like
Mhm.
what would you say to that?
I mean, I think that's really where like having a good support system comes into place. Having that support system before to that point,
Hmm.
surrounding yourself with people who are going to know when that shift starts to happen if you don't know.
Yeah.
Um, and really like people who can call you on it and that you will respect them for it.
Hmm.
Because a lot of times you can see it in people before they see it in themselves.
Hmm.
Whether it's like a shift in mood, shift in attitude, even their tone of voice. But I think on the other side of that too, a lot of people are really good actors, right? And
Yeah.
like they put on a face and they go to work and everything's great and happy and whatever. And really like inside they're like, this sucks. I want to die.
Yeah. Yeah. It's sometimes it's hard to show that pain, you
Hmm.
know, and
Being
or
vulnerable.
just yeah, just to show that vulnerability sometimes is it just be just too difficult. You know what I'm saying? You've
Hmm.
seen it. I mean, didn't you slap me one time? I think maybe I don't.
No.
No, no, okay, okay. I thought I did. I thought it was you. No, but you've seen me like break. You know what I mean? And I've always tried to keep this, this New York machismo going. But we
Mhm.
break. We got to keep the facade going. And
Okay.
it's really scary. You know what I'm saying? But what I've kind of learned to do, like I tell people, take that negativity and use it. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? Use it. It's just I feel like the more people hate is this more love they're giving you. I feel like it takes more energy to hate someone than it is to love someone. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, some like when I start to feel, man, I don't know if this project is good or am I wasting my time? Should I just stop and just stick to working and putting my degree to use? You know what I'm saying? Like,
Mhm.
is sometimes even using that and trying to make it into a positive, is that useful? That could be you
Mhm.
think that could be a little more dangerous, kind of, like I kind of digging my hole a little bit deeper.
Yeah. I mean, I think it depends on how you're using it, right? I think it could be really cathartic for people to be able to work through that dark time.
Mm-hmm.
But it could also potentially be bad if there's a lot of attention that it garners, right? So like
Mm-hmm.
if you put out a song about being in a really deep depression and people are like, "Oh my gosh, this is great." Right? Then you're going to be like, "Oh, okay, well now I need to start thinking in that mindset more often and
Mm-hmm.
put out work that's more aligned with that."
Mm-hmm.
That could be potentially, not so great for your mental health. Maybe
Yeah,
it'll
yeah.
do good for other things, um,
Yeah, no,
but I
it
think
tends to be bad.
too, there's like this idea of like what defines good enough, right? So like the music that you put out versus the music that like I might listen to all the time. They're pretty different, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it
Yeah.
doesn't mean that I don't think your music is good. It's stuff that I would not normally listen to. And then so
Mm-hmm.
people who are listening to your type of music all the time are being more critical of it. They're comparing you to other artists. They're,
Yeah.
oh, it's not as popular as this guy, or, oh, that song sounds
Mm-hmm.
way better than this other person. So then there's a matter of like, okay, well, then what's the rating? Like, there's no standard of good enough other than
Mm-hmm.
like, the Billboard charts basically, but that's
Mm-hmm.
arbitrary.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Even
a lot of
even with
create,
like movies and comic books too, like you know what I'm saying? Like a lot of people try to compare themselves to to the big a matter of fact, last
yeah,
week someone was like, man, you out here, you doing your comic books and you trying to be the next Stan Lee. I mean, I'm trying to be
right.
the me. You know what I'm saying? Like everyone, I think everyone getting into this would love to build an empire such as him. You
Of
know what I'm
course.
saying? But
Yeah, you'd want to be
you know,
successful.
it's hard. Sometimes lightning, like you said, like you go out, all these social media artists, or not even artists, not even call them artists. They don't allow them to deserve that
People.
term, but
Yeah.
they'll put something dumb out, goes viral. Next thing you
Yeah.
know, they got a $50 million deal, some wild shit,
Mhm.
and then 5 years later, they're like homeless and on drugs. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah, it happens.
it's scary. You know what I'm saying? Especially social media. Social
Hmm.
media sucks, and
Yeah.
it's bad. But
Hmm.
we need to be on there more. We're creating. We need to build our platform, and
Hmm.
that's harder because that's where a lot of the "am I good enough," the
Right.
criticism, and
Yeah.
that's
And
where a
then
lot of that comes into play.
it comes down to how many likes, how many shares, how many views,
Uh-huh.
and while they are a number, I don't think it's a full picture either.
You know what I'm saying? There's times I wake up in the middle of the night just to see how many did I get any comments or
Mhm.
likes. So
Right.
it's just crazy. You know what I'm
Hmm.
saying? And
Yeah.
it can't be good for mental health. It can't be.
Right. Yeah.
Having to spend just being on it every day is bad, but knowing you kind of need it. You know
Right.
what I'm saying? And I feel like that's where a lot of times we see problems there too. You know what I'm saying? Because I mean, the comic book community, some amazing folks, but when it comes to fandom, you know what I'm saying? We
Yeah.
love hard and we hate harder, and I feel
Mhm.
like that's where we kind of dig ourselves into that hole and kind of get into those dark places. And sometimes suicide is a thought. It happens. Shit, you know what I'm saying? It's that anxiety,
Mhm.
of fighting, putting out your Kickstarter for the first time, hoping, you know, you make your goal because some people don't make their goal and it will give you that self doubt. You know what I'm saying? Like
And
when
I
we
think
get,
that's when it's important really to have that sense of self and sense of identity outside of who you are as a
Mhm,
creator, who you are as an artist,
mhm,
right? Like give yourself some separation. So whether it's just a really strict schedule that you stick to of like, all right, I'm only going to check the stats of my social media post until 11 o'clock at night, and then that's it. And then I'll look at it
mhm,
tomorrow, like at 12 o'clock, and kind of really build in those parameters for yourself because otherwise, like we said before with your identity, and this is like an all the time thing,
mhm,
you get to a point where you are compulsively checking, and then that's not good because then when the number of likes doesn't change, when reviews doesn't change, then it's the anxiety, like you said, builds up. And what am I doing wrong? Do I have to do something different? And then it's, a whole other rabbit hole of stuff that you're thinking about. Whereas
mhm,
trying to like build in, but basically like breaks for yourself to
yeah,
really rest and, you know, gather your thoughts, give yourself a break, let yourself not be a creator for a few hours. And I know that's hard in the industry that you guys are in.
Hmm.
But I think from like a human and mental health perspective, it's important to ensure you're getting that rest.
Hmm. So basically, we should just set up boundaries. You know what I'm
Hmm.
saying? We should set up
Yeah.
these boundaries where, we stick to a schedule. Like you said, I after 11 p.m., that's it. I'm shutting it down. I'm not gonna focus on it till 9 the next day.
Hmm.
Like what other boundaries should we make? What other healthy boundaries should we set for ourselves?
I definitely think having stuff to do and interests outside of the creative process. And I mean, obviously lots of things are creative in nature, but like if your primary focus right now is comic books, making sure you're taking time and doing something other than writing stories or drawing graphics and stuff like that. I think making sure you just have a good community around you, whether that's a community of like-minded individuals or not, whether it's friends, families that are outside the creative realm. I think that's really important because when you're starting to look at metrics and, views and shares and social media comments and, what's the next project, how'd the last project do, all that kind of stuff, it can get really isolating if you just stay in that mindset all the time. So kind of giving yourself a break from that. And then I guess really at the end of the day, like just knowing who you are as a person outside of that creative realm, which can be hard because like we've talked about it, your identity becomes so intertwined with who you are as an artist or a creator.
Mhm. No, absolutely. And like I mentioned before, one thing we tend to worry about is when we're putting this project is done, we're putting it out, we're launching
Yeah.
our crowdfunding campaign, or we're going, direct to consumer. However, we're ready to just make this money or try to at the
Mhm.
very least.
Right.
Some people they reach their Kickstarter goals. Some blow them out the water and make 10
Mhm.
times more. I've seen $100,000 Kickstarter campaigns off of just a $4,000 minimum. Like I've seen some crazy shit,
Yeah.
but a lot of people don't, even with you know low um you know like $500 campaigns. Some people just don't. And
Mhm.
how can how should a creator just separate their worth from these results? Like, does it mean you're a bad creator because you're $100 short on
Yeah.
your Kickstarter goal? Or maybe we just need to work a little harder? Like, how do we separate that from the financial part of it?
Mhm. Yeah. I mean, the financial part is obviously huge. I mean, I think really just kind of like conceptualizing it as a single setback. Um, right? Like it sucks in the moment that that didn't do very good, but what can you learn from it, right? Like everything is a learning opportunity in this world.
Hmm.
Um, and even if it's rejection, even if something fails or doesn't go exactly how you thought, like what can you learn from it? What have you now gathered in terms of information? Maybe you're just not targeting the timing that the Kickstarter started, the timing that your reel dropped, the timing that your Facebook post went up, whatever the case might be. And you can use that stuff as data points to kind of make it better or different next time. And then I think really it just comes down to, again, making sure that your identity is not solely wrapped up in those kind of things and knowing that you can fail and you can still be okay, right? Like
Yeah.
it can be true that your Kickstarter failed, but your project is a good project.
Hmm.
Those
Yeah,
two can be true at the same time.
and sometimes failing, if that's what you want to call it, because I don't. To me, once you give up, you fail. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Hmm.
Because like you said, because you don't reach your goal doesn't mean you got a bad project.
Right.
It all comes down to what did you do to let people know, and were
Yeah.
you engaging with your community? You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? So, like I said, that brings us back to having to dig into and spend more time on social media because we gotta put up content, and that
Mhm.
alone could get time consuming. Being like having
Yeah.
to put up content frequently, fucking tiring.
Mhm. Sure.
Absolutely tiring. Like once I started to, you know, get into this side of having to market my stuff, I'm like, Jesus Christ. It
Yeah.
made it seem a little easier in school than actually having to be out because you gotta just It's
Yeah.
constant. It's constant, constant.
Yeah. I
You
mean, but
know,
even
and
like you see the people on social media nowadays, right? Like with TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, all the reels and stuff like that. People are putting them out constantly, and it's usually just them walking around with their cell phone in their hand, recording whatever's going on. And you see some of these people have like really wild success doing that.
mhm.
But they're like few and far
Far between.
between if
Yeah,
you really
exactly.
stop and think about it. But
Hmm.
people are seeing that and going, oh, well, she
I
did
could.
it, he did it, I could do that. Like it's easy. And it's not, right? And then
Mm-hmm.
then you start to feel some type of way about like, well, why isn't it working for me? And that can start to lead to the depression and the anxiety. And then like, well, maybe I should just give up and I don't want to do this. And then you feel like a failure, even though, like you said, it's not a failure
Mm-hmm.
unless you totally walk away and give up and you're, out of it. But in that moment, it probably feels like it's a failure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. No. Yeah. It it definitely does. Because I mean, I've been fortunate so far that you know I was able to make a profit with my comics, but even now, I still get anxiety. Like I've got a couple projects out that I'm currently working on. My card game, I swear to God, this is the most anxiety riddled thing I've ever had to work on because I feel like the that market is a little different. Like I've been tapping into several markets. Music is different. I'm just the kind of shit I'm used to. The comic books was a little different, but trading card games is. I swear, I'm probably gonna call you like another 10 times, crying hysterically, just to
Okay.
prepare because I'm in beta testing now. So
Charge
I'm def.
$165 an hour. I'll bill you.
Nah. No, 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 no. Listen, I made you a character in my comic book. It's
You're
free.
welcome.
you know, but
But she'll never
with
know.
that, I like to work on a lot of projects. I like to keep my mind busy. Is that healthy? Like I know
Yeah.
staying busy is good, but
Mhm.
too busy is that healthy? Because maybe that I feel like that kind of brings it back to getting burned out and
Mhm.
getting tired. Like
Yeah.
is it healthy to obsess over your own shit?
I think there's a line for sure.
Hmm.
I mean, I think staying busy is definitely a coping tool for a lot of people. For a lot of us, it just is easier to just keep going and doing and not stop and think, creator or not creator. But I do think that there's a line where, you become so hyper focused on putting out a project or multiple projects even that the obsession does become unhealthy. And usually we see a lot with people with OCD. It's a form of anxiety, right? So
Hmm.
if you're obsessing over a project, you might not feel anxious about it, but it's, from a clinical standpoint, it is anxiety, right? And then how sustainable is that? Like, can
Hmm.
you pour your all and like 23 and a half hours a day into a project for 2 weeks? Probably. But then at some point, like you're done. Like you're just gonna crash, and it's not probably gonna be a good look for anybody. And trying to find a way to balance that with, you know, being very obsessive on the project coming out exactly the way that you want it is good to a point. But I'm sure even for yourself, you can look back on the comics you've put out, the songs you've written, and pick them apart
Hmm.
if you tried. If you continually obsessed about it. So I think at some point it has to be again that break, that hard stop of it is what it is. I'm happy with this, I'm satisfied with it. I'm going to walk away from it because at some point you're just if you don't let it
Yeah.
be good enough.
Yeah, no, you're right. You know what I'm saying? Now, before we wrap things up, oh, okay, it looks like my internet connection is acting up, but I think it's fine now. You hear me? Everything's good, right?
Mhm.
Okay, I'll cut that out. But before we wrap things up, like, is there any advice you have for us creators that, right now we're just feeling a little down and, you know, we just need some words of encouragement.
Hmm. I mean, like the age-old adage is like, just keep going one day at a time. But I mean, I think really at the end of the day, like do it from a place of passion and desire. Like don't do it out of desperation. Don't do it to, become a multimillionaire, world famous rapper kind of thing, or, the next Stan Lee. Like, do it because this is something you really enjoy. And if you get to that point, great. Like, that's an added bonus. But I think, enjoying the creative process along the way and appreciating it for what it is and not getting wrapped up in the, oh, well, it could be this, it should be that, I want it to be this. Like, it is what it is right now, and that can be okay. It doesn't have to be perfect, but it can still be good, even if you don't have a million likes, even if you don't have a million views, right? Like it's still good work.
That's what's up. You see, and those are some gems right there, you know? You know what I'm saying? And, I do want to thank you for joining us today.
Yeah,
You
of course.
know, mental health is a serious thing. It's not really spoken about, and sometimes I feel like, you just need to put the word out there, man. We gotta look out after yourself. You gotta stay healthy for everyone. Keep putting out the best projects that you can, and keep trucking, man. This entertainment is shitty. It's fun. We all want the money, but it could be shitty on your head. Just stay focused,
Yeah.
man, and just keep moving. I mean, those are my two thoughts. And you know, here's a little plug, shameless plug I'm gonna put in there. You know what I'm saying? Issue 3 of Chaos Theory is coming out. I would say you pick it up because you get to see her kill my best friend. You know what I'm saying? She slices his throat with a razor blade. Now you're probably like, what the fuck is happening? Go check it out.
Be
But on
careful of the
that
white
note,
girls.
Nicole, thank you for joining us
Yeah.
and,
Thanks for having
you
me.
know, have a great rest of your day.
Yeah.
All
Stay
right.
safe.
Thank you for tuning in. Once again, man, make sure everyone's looking out for their mental health. And, we all out here. You definitely could hit me up if you just need someone to reach out to. You know what I'm saying? But make sure you stay in that great headspace. But don't forget also, make sure you check out everybody's, Kickstarter campaigns and their links. They're going to be in the description below. Uh, like, don't forget to check out the website too, villainarchives.com. But thank you once again for tuning in and making 4 episodes possible. Episode 5 is coming up soon, and that's gonna have a special treat on that. But once again, it is your boy Mal, and I'm out. Bang, bang.